It all starts with the MC kind of freaking out, thinking about this whole idea of eternal life. Suddenly, the scene completely changes and he's left wondering where the heck he ended up. He's now in the audience of a mythological arena. His name is Chong Sheng, a transmigrator who was an archaeology student in his past life. Just then, his childhood friend, Hao, shows up to give him a nudge, telling Chong Sheng to stop zoning out and get in line already. The MC is a bit lost, wondering what on earth this so-called Divine Awakening Day is all about. The story then gives us a flashback to 100 years ago, when a giant mythological arena just popped up on the continent. With the arrival of this mysterious arena, gods from various nations were resurrected. Apparently, they were just taking a nap. Ever since, when a human turns 16, they can use the Divine Awakening Stone to try and summon an entity. Those who manage to summon something gain divine power and get to represent their country in battles in the arena. To give an example of the danger, a young man tries to summon a lord but ends up messing up the name he was supposed to say. Because of this, the summoned entity gets annoyed and prepares to teach the human who called it a lesson. I mean, imagine being woken up from your eternal slumber just to hear someone butcher your name. I'd be ticked off too. Because of that silly mistake, the young man's body starts turning to dust and he just vanishes into thin air. He bit the dust over a pronunciation error. Talk about bad luck. It's explained that the Chinese civilization was fragmented, and many of its historical and mythological records got totally wrecked. A serious-looking man in a suit is introduced as the city lord. Back in the present, the Divine Awakening ceremony officially kicks off, and the crowd gathers. Chong Sheng thinks about the danger, figuring out that if the summoning goes south, the person turns to dust. Suddenly, a girl catches everyone's attention. His friend points her out, saying she's Liu Yanran, the top scorer on the national exams. The class brainiac has arrived. She's the daughter of the greatest swordsman, Miru Feng, and walks around with a stuck-up look. Hao gets super jealous, commenting that the girl was born with a silver spoon in her mouth and is talented on top of that. Life's not fair, man. Chong Sheng's friend is rooting for her to awaken a powerful god because he can't stand seeing their country lose to the Sakura nation anymore. With a determined look, the MC agrees with his friend. It's Liu Yanran's turn, and the city lord calls her to approach the awakening stone. The girl slowly reaches out her hand and touches the surface of the crystal, which begins to glow intensely. The city lord notices something wild is happening and bets that a powerful god is on the way. A massive burst of blue energy explodes from the stone, and several images of deities appear in the air, leaving everyone stunned. Chong Sheng watches with wide eyes, completely amazed by what he's seen. Then, he realizes something super important. The images of the gods are identical to the ones he knew from his past life. The crowd watches in awe as the girl continues the summoning process in the center of the arena. A kind of ancient chant appears in the air, speaking of the god's name in his bloody battles. With her hands together, Liu Yanran humbly asks for the presence of the god of war, Bai Qi. Chong Sheng gets confused by this and wonders out loud what Bai Qi would have to do with the Battle of Red Cliffs. Hao nearly freaks out at the comment and can't believe his friend's audacity in doubting the nation's top student. The people around them turn to the MC, calling him an ignorant student from his small town. All he can think is how pathetic the whole situation is, concluding that modern civilization has totally collapsed. The MC reflects on how people have forgotten their own history, completely losing their knowledge of the past. With a huge smile on his face, the city lord announces that Liu Yanran has awakened the S-rank god of war with a 40% compatibility rate. The divine entity appears with a purple aura, and the first thing it asks is who was the joker that associated him with the wrong battle. The city lord comments that she has a bright future, but unfortunately, it'll still take some time for the girl to mature. Liu Yanran stands there with a serious look on her face as a purple energy completely surrounds her. Right after, the young woman's body begins to fade, dissolving into particles of light. The city lord is totally lost, wondering what she is pulling now. Another entity appears before her, and everyone is shocked to realize it's an emperor god, something super rare. The crowd immediately speculates that it must be Emperor Daizong, the only one who conquered the world at a young age. However, Chong Sheng notices something is off. He knows that the emperor's robes from that era were mainly yellow, not blue. As he observes the blue figure, he gets lost in thought, trying to figure out who that entity could be. An older gentleman shouts for everyone to wait. He explains that this is the first time in 100 years that an emperor god has shown up in the mythological arena. Just then, Li Zhuan, the dean of Tianjuan Academy, appears and warns that choosing an emperor without being sure would be extremely dangerous. The city lord approaches Liu Yanran and asks her to give up, since she is the future of Huxia and cannot afford to fail. The girl remains silent for a moment, staring at the emperor god floating in front of her. Looking up at the sky, she makes her decision. She doesn't want a top-tier god to just vanish from the world on her account. Li Zhuan chews her out for being so stubborn, saying they can trust their future fighting power. The master then cooks up a bold plan. Use 10 years of the nation's fortune to anchor the emperor's soul. A fire phoenix emerges and flies into the sky, transforming into fiery feathers that scatter through the air. Li Zhuan turns to the students and announces that a top-tier god, possibly Emperor Daizong, has appeared. The story then shows that the nation of Huxia suffered a devastating loss, experiencing a pretty bitter defeat. To make matters worse, the announcer Aphrodite calls the result of the first round, confirming that the Sakura nation came out on top against the Huxia nation. In the second round of the Divine War, a giant giant snake appears, and the Sakura nation wins again. Liu looks seriously concerned about the situation, understanding that identifying gods based on fragmented information is a huge risk. Turning to the crowd, the master throws out a challenge, asking who else has the guts to step forward and try their luck. The folks in the audience get cold feet. One student comments that the so-called emperor god might not be Taizong. A young man from Kyoto Academy steps forward, saying confidently that in Huxia, they aren't afraid of danger and that he's willing to give it a shot. A pink-haired girl named Chunyu also volunteers, representing the Magic Capital Academy. Seeing their courage, several other students start shouting, all offering to try their luck with the summoning. In the middle of the crowd, a hand shoots up confidently, and the person claims to know the god's origin and that it's different from what the dean thinks. It's Chong Sheng who volunteers, from Jinling Academy. The people around him immediately recognize him as the guy who questioned the number 1 student earlier. His friend is freaking out, asking if he's lost his mind and reminding him that getting the name wrong means turning to dust. The dean watches the MC approach, notes the kid's confidence, and wonders if he really knows that emperor's story. The master reflects that, after analyzing all the records, the only emperor who fits the description is indeed Taizong. Even so, the dean decides to give him a vote of confidence and says that because of the young man's attitude, he'll let him try. With a firm gaze, the MC thinks to himself that you shouldn't hold back the pure heart of a Huxia citizen. The scene cuts to the Sakura Nation's audience, where they're commenting that an unknown god has appeared in Huxia. They start roasting the people of Huxia for their ignorance, saying a culturally bankrupt country is no match for the great Sakura Nation. Ignoring the taunts, the MC just smiles and gets ready for the summoning. The young man finally touches the awakening stone, which begins to glow intensely with a red light. A gigantic burst of fire energy explodes from the stone, and the crowd wonders what's happening and if he activated a top-tier god. Even Liu Yanran is impressed by what she sees. The Sakura Nation delegation is baffled, wondering what this reed aura is, since the strongest they knew of was purple. Watching from afar, the folks from India comment that they'd heard only their nation in Greece had produced gods with aura in Joris. The Korean delegation is also outraged, questioning the red aura and wondering if the awakening stone is busted. The city lord and the dean are completely shocked, and the master reveals that this is the aura of an SSS-RANK god. He explains that the aura levels go from white to orange, but very few people know that above orange, there is red. The city lord is in disbelief over the situation, wondering if Huxia really has an SSS-RANK god in its history. The MC, rocking this reed aura, thinks to himself, he knows SSS might be the limit for others, but for the entity he's about to summon, that's just scratching the surface. With a look full of confidence, he is certain of one thing: there may be other SS-RANK gods, but none of them even come close to what's coming. Liu Yanran watches everything suspiciously, remembering that Liu Changsheng's grades on the exams were total garbage. The MC corrects one of the masters about the god's identity, explaining that the summoned entity has a head and limbs, unlike what they thought. He finally gets why he came to this world. The myths of Huxia have been gone for way too long, and he's here to set things right. A powerful vision appears, showing the beginning of everything when, in the beginning, Pangu created the heavens and the earth with his power. With his hands together as a sign of respect, he humbly asks for the presence of the first god of creation, Pangu. Over in the Sakura Nation section, everyone is in shock when they hear the words creator god. The surprise is universal. Even the staff on site stop everything to process the information they just received. Back in the Huxia section, the audience is wondering how he managed to awaken an SSS god and, more importantly, how he knew who it was. Liu Changsheng just watches everything with a slight smile, looking completely calm about the chaos he just created. Behind the young man, a giant entity materializes in flames. It's Pangu, the supreme god who gave birth to everything that exists. A system panel pops up in front of the young man, showing Pangu as his main god, with an initial compatibility of 1%. Meanwhile, the scene takes us to a place far, far away, showing an ancient temple in the sunlight. A young boy who tends to the temple is left speechless, as he seems to have sensed the presence of the god that was just awakened. Looking up, the boy sees the temple of Huaxia's gods and witnesses the arrival of the big boss of the gods, the creator Pangu. The boy realizes he's got to spread the word to the world and bolts down the stairs, determined to ring the bell of destiny. He gets right in front of a colossal balloon. Without thinking twice, lifts a hammer that looks bigger than he is, ready to smack the sacred object. With all his might, the kid smacks the bell head on, and a powerful sound starts to spread throughout the entire place, even making the ground shake. And wouldn't you know it, the bell of destiny echoes 9 times. The chimes ring out across the whole nation, pretty much shouting to everyone that something massive is about to happen. The sword immortal, Liu King, is even a little doubtful, wondering if he heard correctly, but his assistant confirms it. It was exactly 9 chimes, no more, no less. An older master gets so happy with the news he nearly has a meltdown, shouting that the heavens have finally blessed Huxia with a supreme god. Meanwhile, Yu Yanran Ran is lost in thought over the situation, remembering that the strongest god in Huxia's history only managed to make the bell ring 3 times. On the other side, Emperor Takagoja of the Sakura Nation gets totally ticked off, refusing to believe some kid from Huxia awakened the supreme god. The emperor, all irritated, questions Lord Matsumoto about the boy, and Matsumoto replies that, with his current skill, it would be pretty tough for the young man to summon that god in the arena. With a confident and pretty sadistic little smile, Matsumoto guarantees he's got it covered, saying he can easily take down the kid and his god. Just then, a superior gives a crystal clear order. They need to take out the prodigy from Huxia before he gets too strong, and, while they're at it, go ahead and start a divine war. The leader of the Sakura Nation grinds his teeth in anger, yelling that they absolutely cannot, under any circumstances, allow the MC to stay alive. While the world is going crazy, Lu Changsheng remains totally calm. The story explains that SSS-RANK is a top for most gods, but for Pangu, that's not even scratching the surface. The creator god story is then recalled, his body transformed into all things, and his soul became a sage of supreme power. Suddenly, a notification pops up out of nowhere. The Sakura Nation used 10 years of its national fortune to force Lu Changsheng into a battle in 10 minutes. The ground beneath the MC's feet begins to tremble and crack. With a flash of light, everyone in the arena starts to disappear, getting transported to another dimension. The start of a nominated divine war is announced. The space has been locked, and everyone has been taken to a different place. Lu Changsheng transforms into a blue projection, and the masters figure out there's no turning back as he's already been taken to the other realm. The dean and the city lord are furious, livid at the enemy's dirty and desperate tactic. Looking up, Liu Yanran is also outraged, commenting on how the rival nation's tactics are treacherous and have zero honor. Meanwhile, in the Sakura Nation's audience, the crowd goes wild, mocking the people from Huxia. The enemy leader explains his plan. The war isn't just to win, but to eliminate the young genius before he becomes a real headache. He continues with his villain pose. The assistant receives the notification about the use of their national fortune and explains that the Sakura Nation wants to take out Huxia's prodigy as fast as possible. The MC now faces his opponent who humiliates him, saying that he might fly high in the future, but right now he's just a newbie. The assistant keeps explaining the situation, revealing that this is the first time a nominated divine war has ever appeared in the mythological arena. With a seriously ticked-off look, Liu King makes one heck of a promise. If the genius from Huxia goes down, next year he will personally wipe out the enemy capital. A few minutes pass in the blink of an eye, and the battle is about to begin in the new dimension they were dragged to. Matsumoto, the opponent, scoffs at the whole situation, thinking it's a total overreaction to start an entire war just for some inexperienced kid. Matsumoto keeps bragging with a smirk on his face, saying that even if the Sword Demorta were there, he could still handle him. Meanwhile, Lu Changsheng is just standing there deep in thought, believing that Pangu would be impossible to summon and that the Emperor God should reappear in the arena. Seeing the MC's silence, the enemy taunts him, asking if he doesn't have the guts to face him. Suddenly, Matsumoto's expression completely changes. With a mocking look, Changsheng points at his opponent and drops this gem. He says the enemy snake head would make a great stew. The rival gets furious at the taunt and promises that he'll soon put an end to the boy and use what's left to feed his entity. The battle finally kicks off in the mythological arena. It's the third match between the Huxia Nation and the Sakura Nation, which has already won the first two. The announcer, Aphrodite, explains the dramatic situation. If Huxia loses, they'll have to hand over half of their people and their national fortune to the rival nation. The rules of the mythical arena are then shown in each battle. 5 random gods are chosen for each competitor to summon. Lu Changsheng reads the rules and thinks to himself, understanding that victory means life, and defeat means the end. With a determined look, the MC decides he's going to settle the score, fighting for personal reasons as much as for his nation's pride. Matsumoto isn't taking his opponent seriously. Aphrodite asks if they both understand the rules. They confirm, and the battle is officially cleared to begin. The info for both fighters appears on a panel. Matsumoto is an S-rank individual with the SS-rank god Yamata no Orochi. The info screen then shows Lu Changsheng's image, but to everyone's surprise, his data appears to be blurred or unreadable. With a smile, the announcer calls the start of the third match, asking both competitors to summon their gods. Matsumoto is the first who approaches the divine stone. The leader of the Sakura Nation smiles with satisfaction, praising Matsumoto's almost perfect compatibility with the god Yamata. Inside the stone, the fighter yells confidently that victory is already theirs. Suddenly, the MC's body starts shrinking as the enemy watches him, confused. The city lord and the dean are completely speechless, unable to figure out what the heck is happening to the kid. In front of the boy, who's now shrunken down, 5 godly spirits are floating in the air, waiting for his choice. The enemy crowd starts yelling taunts, and Matsumoto gives his command, telling his god, Orochi, to awaken. Inside the MC's mind, a mysterious voice echoes, saying that he shouldn't be forgotten, no matter what. The voice continues, stating that he doesn't deserve to be buried in the dust of history. The crowd is shocked to see the kid's choice, since he's selecting an unknown god, which is a huge gamble. The older master shouts a warning to Chong Sheng, saying that the most likely god to be summoned as Tank ties on. Liu Yanran also thinks about the possibilities, and according to some secret files, it could be the Emperor Shu Yuanzhang. The MC just smiles, leaving everyone totally guessing. A poem about the King of Qin is recited, talking about how he conquered everything under the heavens and reigned as a one-of-a-kind, legendary emperor. With a gesture of respect, the boy introduces himself, calling himself an unworthy descendant and paying homage to the founder, Yingzheng. An extremely intense golden light erupts in the arena, and the divine entity begins to materialize with overwhelming power. The god is now fully formed. He summoned another SS-rank god. The Huxia crowd goes wild with joy, screaming that the heavens have finally blessed their nation. The master, however, still has a worried look on his face, and his companion next to him comments that it's a shame it's a human god. He explains that usually the strength of human gods is lower, like they're no match for demon gods of the same rank. A summoned entity stares down the 8-headed serpent. Matsumoto taunts the MC with a smirk on his face, saying he already expected the kid couldn't summon a creation god. The rival keeps making fun of him for summoning such a weak human god. The young man then bows to his ancestor and says that future generations may have forgotten him, but that's a shame on them. From this day forward, however, everything would be different. His great achievements as the first emperor would be remembered forever. The boy begins to list his god's deeds. He unified the writing system, standardized roads, and united the 7 states, planting the seed of unification. For 100 generations, the people will remember forever the homeland cannot be divided, and the Great Wall protected the people. A powerful golden energy connects the MC to his god, and the bond between them is finally complete. A system panel appears in front of everyone, showing that Chong Sheng has 60% compatibility with the god Yingzheng. The Huxia audience is completely shocked by the revelation, doubting if the story the kid told is real. Matsumoto, the opponent, scoffs at the situation, looking down on the human god and asking what a mere emperor can do. The emperor turns to the MC and points at the rival, asking if that is a foreigner who is oppressing the nation of Huxia. With an expression of pure rage, the god shouts that those who dare to offend his nation must be taken out without exception. The Sakura nation's audience starts laughing loudly, mocking the human god. The rival smirks, commenting that, as expected of an emperor, the entity really has a commanding presence. One of the serpent's heads rises up and stares at the emperor, with Matsumoto saying he didn't expect a human god to be so arrogant. The demon god finds the battle pathetic. The emperor then extends his hand and focuses his energy, starting to speak about a great regret from his life. A golden beam of light shoots across the arena, moving toward the god. The energy materializes as a sword in his hand, and he reveals that his only regret was never having taken down a god. Holding the sword firmly, he declares his power, saying that this is the weapon that represents the full might of Qin. The audience from another nation is in complete disbelief. The audience from the neighboring country also comments on the scene, thinking the god looks pretty ridiculous trying to act tough. From another corner, the audience from Silla wonders if he's really going to fight with a mortal body. The giant serpent seems unfazed by the threat. The demon god gets ready to attack, shouting that this blow will show them the power gap between them. With a swift move, one of the serpent's heads lunges forward and slams into the ground with insane force. The leader of the Sakura nation already declares the fight is over, believing the emperor of Huxia will be easily torn to shreds. The enemy crowd agrees that there's no suspense left, doubting that a human god could possibly defeat a real god. Suddenly, the emperor's sword glows with an intense light, and the blade clashes against the head of the giant serpent. With a single swift and precise movement, the sword cuts through the creature's neck. To everyone's complete surprise, the serpent's head is separated from its body. The rival nation's leader's jaw hits the floor, completely unable to believe what he just saw. Liu Yanran is also left speechless by the outcome. The demon god is totally ticked off about what just went down and wonders how the heck the emperor, without even having any real divine power, managed to unleash that kind of force. Then the emperor reveals the secret to his power, explaining that it's all about the Kira fighting technique of ancient Qin. He goes on to explain that this technique was forged by a whole bunch of cultivators from Huxia. Watching all of this, the master from Huxia is moved and impressed, thinking about how their ancestors were able to create such an insane technique. Mockingly, the serpent says it was a shame he only managed to take off one of its heads. Just then, the creature's body starts to regenerate super fast, and it claims to be immortal. With its head back in place, the demon god looks down on the emperor. The giant serpent then says that mortals like him should get on their knees and that their destiny is to be stuck in the sky forever. The emperor, in turn, looks at the MC with a serious expression and says that if he loses, he'll be in debt to his people, but he's never lost in his life. The demon god gets irritated, yelling that the emperor shouldn't challenge him. Without wasting any time, the god of Huxia charges forward with his sword. The emperor moves with incredible agility across the battlefield. The head that had been cut from the serpent falls to the ground, but a weird purple liquid starts to form and regenerate the lost limb. Seeing this, the Huxia crowd watches the scene in despair, wondering if it's even possible to defeat a god that just regenerates and can't be taken down. With his face all beat up, the emperor faces the monster and declares that no one can live forever, not even the most ancient divine beings. The serpent attacks again with one of its heads, but the human god manages to dodge it. Surrounded on all sides, the creature taunts him. In a surprise attack, one of the serpent's heads lands a hit on him, and the impact sends him flying. With that, the Emperor's body slams violently against the arena floor. Even all banged up, the human god uses his sword to pull himself up, refusing to give up the fight. In the audience, a girl starts to cry seeing the scene, screaming that the blood of Huxia's ancestor is all over the arena. The master watches and tells the crew to brace for defeat, since they can't let the god keep sacrificing himself like that. The Emperor, meanwhile, looks at the countless serpent heads. Suddenly, he closes his eyes and concentrates, feeling a familiar aura coming from the great kin. A golden energy explodes around him, forming a giant dragon as he says that all the lands in this world belong to him. The Emperor's golden soul begins to manifest even stronger, coming out of the MC's body with a super intense glow. This same energy also starts to flow from a girl in the audience, showing that the power of the Huxia people is gathering to strengthen their god. Soon golden souls emerge from the entire crowd. They are the souls of Huxia, coming together to lend their ancestor a hand. The energy then fuses around the god, creating the great divine armor of kin. Next, the golden spirits charge at the giant serpent, attacking it from all sides. The rival Matsumoto is completely shocked by the scene. Despite the shock, he pulls himself together real quick. With a confident smirk, he taunts the MC, saying it doesn't matter how talented he is. The opponent then gets ready to strike, asking if the kid will have time to grow up and if he forgot the main rule of the arena. He moves at an insane speed and appears right behind the MC. In the crowd, everyone screams in panic, with the girl and the master warning Chong Sheng to watch out and dodge. The rival's blade comes down swiftly toward the MC's neck. But, to everyone's surprise, the MC just catches the blade with his bare hands. With a quick move, the kid throws him far away. The audience is blown away by the MC's strength. The MC then explains the secret to his power. Pangu is his contracted god. He states that his body is as strong as a rock, while his rival is down on the ground. The opponent gets up and admits he was careless, acknowledging that the MC's body is tough. He calls him a tiny piece of trash, and at that moment, a shadow with an evil grin forms behind him. The rival reveals his shadow clone technique. The two clones rush into attack, but the MC manages to grab both of their feet at the same time. Without hesitating, he lands a powerful punch right in the face of one of the clones. With a little smirk on his face, the MC compliments his rival, commenting that he hits hard, just as you'd expect from an SS class guardian. The Huxia crowd is just going wild over the MC's performance. Some girls in the audience are already screaming they want to start a family with him, even offering up a house. On the flip side, the Sakura Nation's audience starts to panic, wondering if their god is about to lose. But one of them yells that the fight isn't over yet. The rival nation's leader is shocked and breaking out in a cold sweat, unable to believe the human god and the new guardian are this strong. Meanwhile, the battle in the heavens keeps raging on, with the golden spirits relentlessly attacking the giant serpent. The Emperor watches the scene calmly, as one of the spirits with a large golden halberd prepares for a decisive strike. The giant serpent, surrounded by golden swords and arrows, screams in desperation, demanding offerings to get its power back. Suddenly, the Sakura Nation's audience begins to fade away, their life energy is being drained to strengthen the demon god. All this purple energy gathers in one of the serpent's heads, which is getting ready to regenerate right when it was on its last legs. With a powerful roar, the creature's head fully regenerates, and it comes back stronger than before. The MC steps on his fallen opponent, who's on the ground, and explains that when a guardian is taken out, the divine beast returns to its origins. With a determined look, the young man decides he needs to finish off the serpent first. The giant creature mocks the human, saying that he's not fighting a divine beast, but millions of citizens from the Sakura Nation. The Emperor cracks a small smile and asks if the serpent can really sacrifice its citizens on its own. He then realizes the truth behind the monster's power. The citizens are sacrificing themselves to become a power source for the creature's recovery. In the Sakura Nation stands, the crowd is terrified, not understanding what's happening and starting to panic. The ancestor reveals that he fought his whole life for a divine path. His technique can save the world, and he will make everyone become a dragon. An intense golden light radiates from the Emperor as he stands before the shining souls of his people. The name of the ability is revealed as the Immortal Key technique, and several golden spirits materialize around him. In the crowd, the girl is surprised to feel the resonance with her contracted deity increase dramatically. The rest of the Huxia audience also feels an incredible surge of strength. The Emperor explains that he dedicated his life to his people, wishing that everyone in the world could be as healthy and strong as dragons. A young man in the crowd cries with emotion, realizing that the ancestor of Huxia had a noble plan all along. On his knees and surrounded by flames, the god prepares for his final act. The leader of the Eagle Nation observes the clear difference. The serpent sacrifices its people for energy, but the deity of Huxia sacrifices himself for them. The Amerigo Nation's audience is shocked by the scene, commenting on how the power of the Eastern civilization is just incredible. With his eyes glowing with fire, the Emperor issues a call, asking where the celestial soldiers of the Great Kin Nation are. The Golden Souls respond in a single voice, shouting that they are there ready for battle. Sitting on a throne made of blades, the Emperor gives his final order, pointing at the enemy and telling his soldiers to finish them off. The celestial soldiers repeat their emperor's order and charge forward like an army of light to wreck what's left. The multiple heads of the giant serpent look on at the incoming attack. The golden army attacks the beast with full force, with energy slashes cutting through the air and hitting the creature from all sides. The warrior spirits on another level manage to overpower the serpent's heads with their attacks. In desperation, one of the creature's heads roars, demanding more sacrifices to regain its power and continue the fight. Once again, the Sakura Nation's audience begins to fade, their bodies turning into purple energy as they are consumed by the divine beast. One of the rival nation's leaders panics, yelling that they can't keep this up as the offerings are the country's elite. On his knees, the man mourns the fate of his people, believing this is the end and that the nation can't pay this price anymore. A citizen of the Sakura Nation rebels against his own god, shouting that the god of Huxia wants to strengthen his people, while there's only knows how to ask for offerings. This feeling of rebellion spreads through the crowd, and they all start chanting for their own divine creature to be defeated. With that, all the energy and will of the Huxia people condenses, forming an immense sword of light in the emperor's hand. Holding the gigantic weapon, the god faces the serpent and states that, in the end, its own people have abandoned it. The ancestor of Huxia charges forward through the flames, preparing to deliver the final blow with his golden blade. One of the serpent's heads crashes to the ground lifeless. The message was clear, the great beast had finally been taken down. With that, the MC faces his fallen rival and lays it on him. Since the creature is toast, there's no reason to keep its guardian around. Without a second thought, the MC lands a final blow on his opponent's head. And Matsumoto Minamoto's body lies there, motionless on the ground, confirming it was over for him too. The arena's announcer smiles with the microphone in her hand, getting ready to formally announce the result of the battle. She then declares the victory for Chong Sheng, and the score between the Sakura Nation and the Huxia Nation is now 1-2. In the audience, a girl cries with emotion, barely able to believe that the MC actually managed to win. The master is shocked by the result, correcting himself and saying it a mere mortal not only fought but defeated the divine. The beautiful announcer praises the performance of the warrior from Huxia and announces that the next round will be a divine battle, asking the guardians to prepare. In the arena, the emperor can barely stay on his feet, leaning on his sword, completely exhausted after the fight. You can see it on the ancestor's face that his batteries run out. The guy is breathing hard, sweating, and looks like he's about to pass out at any moment. In the Huxia stands, the crowd starts to panic. One of the guys yells out, not understanding why the ancestor is in such bad shape. The master then explains that there are barely any of the emperor's believers left in the nation. The people's faith is the god's Wi-Fi. If the signal is weak, it's game over. With that, the god's body starts to dissolve into particles of light. The battle totally wiped him out, and his energy is fading away. The MC gets closer to the emperor's spiritual form and calls out to him, worried about the big guy's condition. The ancestor's voice then speaks to Chong Sheng, saying that he might not be able to fight anymore. As his body completely fades away, the emperor reveals his unexpected wish. He hopes that all life in this world will turn to ash. The master then laments, saying the ancestor is gone, and explains a god's power comes from their believers, and since nobody remembered the poor guy anymore, the emperor had to burn every last drop of energy he had. Then, the people of Huxia realize their screw up. One of the elders even admits that they disrespected their great ancestor. At that moment, a little system screen pops up for the MC. It shows his main god is Pangu with a measly 2% resonance. Meanwhile, the ancestor is frozen, but with 90% resonance, ready to be summoned again if the people start believing in him. Hearing everyone crying, the MC says that the ancestor isn't really gone. He says that everyone just needs to believe harder. The MC realizes that by summoning the ancestor, his own resonance with the big boss, Pangu, also went up. All excited by this possibility, the young man thinks that if he summons more deities in the future, he might even be able to bring the all-powerful Pangu to this world. Turning to his supporters, the MC adds that the ancestor isn't gone, he's just taking a nap and will be back once his name is praised again in Huxia. Over in the stands, the white-haired master gives an order with a fierce look. He tells them to record the ancestor's deeds so they'll be known forever, because the gods of Huxia cannot be forgotten. Meanwhile, a man with a sword on his back comes running with his assistant, sighing in relief that he made it in time and already commenting on Chong Sheng's victory against the giant snake. Suddenly, a woman appears, declaring that the divine arena must begin. In that same instant, a screen pops up out of nowhere, announcing that the Sakura Nation is challenging Liu King of Huxia to a divine duel, with the battle starting in 10 minutes. The swordsman turns around, he can't believe what he's seeing and accuses the woman next to him of being a spy for the Sakura Nation. Taking off her glasses, the woman reveals her betrayal with a nasty smirk. She confesses she's stuck by his side for 10 years, just waiting for the perfect chance to screw over Huxia for good. The spy declares that their time of glory is over and that now the nation of Huxia belongs comes to the Sakura nation. Pissed off by the betrayal, the sword master draws his blade, saying she asked for this, as a golden aura from his god manifests behind him. Back in the stands, a young man approaches and whispers something in the master's ear, who's so shocked he forgets how to speak. The young man informs the group that the sword master was attacked by a spy and because of that, won't make it to the arena in time, so they need a substitute. Furious at the news, one of Huxia's guardians gets ticked off by the Sakura nation's dirty move, knowing that without the sword master, their chances of winning plummet. The story explains that 2 of Huxia's four masters had already been taken out by the Great Serpent. In this whole time, only the sword master Liu King could secure victories against the Sakura nation. With time running out, the 4th battle is about to begin, and the MC and the master look at each other, knowing they need to decide something fast. The master takes a step forward, saying the last fight must have left Chong Sheng totally wiped. With a phoenix or forming behind him, the old man offers to fight. With a little smirk, the MC just dismisses the master's offer. Full of confidence, the young man states that he's going to win this battle and asks them to let him fight. With a serious look, the master chews the young man out, telling him not to push himself for no reason. His friends try to convince the MC to let the master fight, with the white-haired girl saying he has a better chance since he's the best in Huxia. The MC looks down for a moment, thinking. Suddenly, he says, "I once had a dream," and a bright aura begins to pour out of his body. A vision of a gigantic red phoenix appears for everyone to see, and its energy lights up the whole place. Inside this vision, the young man explains that there was an ancient god in his dreams, and this deity was smiling and comforting him. Pointing to his own head, the young man reveals the result of this dream. When he woke up, he just knew all of Huaxia's hidden legacy. The vision vanishes, leaving his friends confused. The master then begins to tell a story about the past, mentioning some great Ru who obtained the path of life. He also brings up a Buddhist who achieved the path of life and immortality, explaining that understanding the path isn't all that weird. Looking at the MC, the master finally gets it. That's why the kid knows all of Huaxia's deities. His hard doctor came with the divine Wikipedia pre-installed. Even so, he tries to argue that he knows the young man wants to prove himself, but he's more experienced and knows all the nation's gods. Another man agrees, praising the kid's talent but saying he doesn't need to sacrifice himself so soon. Completely ignoring the warnings, the master unleashes his energy, and an immense fiery aura engulfs him completely. With a determined look, he gets ready to show his true power. He summons his god, a gigantic flaming phoenix. The crowd is in shock at the sight of the creature the master's description gave a new form to a swallow, something that had never been recorded in history. One of the MC's companions is impressed by his knowledge, commenting on how Chong Sheng knows so many of Huaxia's secret mythologies. The master finally agrees with the young man's decision, admitting the kid isn't wrong, but reminds him that summoning a god drains your own stamina and tells him to get ready. The MC turns and faces the white-haired girl, who remains silent. Surrounded by an intense aura of golden flames, the MC concentrates to begin his own summoning ritual. A gigantic deity of light materializes behind him, and the girl jumps at the creature's sudden appearance. She watches the MC with an expression that's a mix of concern and woe. What is that power? In the crowd, the folks start to panic when they figure out the situation. He's summoning an S-class god, which could drain his life or sway faster. With his back to his friends, the MC from Huxia faces what's coming. The dude is literally using his own life as fuel to light up his nation's path. The scene cuts to the legendary arena, where the announcer Aphrodite announces that the 4th battle between the Huxia nation and the Sakura nation is about to begin. With a confident smile, she introduces the representative from Huxia, the genius Chong Sheng, who has already secured a victory for his people. The MC enters the arena with a serious expression, while his status screen describes him as a victorious genius and shows his SS-class god, the all-powerful Pangu. Representing the Sakura nation, a girl named Momo Sakura appears and, wearing a kimono, greets the MC politely. In the Sakura nation stands, the crowd is already making fun of them, wondering if Huxia has anyone else left to fight. A boss on the other side smiles, mentioning that the spy they planted near the sword master has already done the dirty work. The representative from the Sakura nation appears with a confident look and declares that, this time, the nation of Huxia will be defeated. The girl named Momo Sakura gets ready for battle. In the Huxia cheering section, the crowd is surprised by the opponent. One of them wonders why they sent such a pretty girl to fight. Bunch of simpes. The white-haired master observes, revealing that the Sakura nation's divine guardian sent her. The problem is, there's absolutely no info on her. Momo then begins her summoning. A bright pink energy flows from her hands as the image of a fox deity forms behind her. A countdown appears on the arena screen, showing there are only 50 seconds until the official start of the battle. As time ticks by, the image of Momo's deity becomes clearer, and the Huxia crowd gets desperate, asking what Chong Sheng is doing just standing there. The crowd panics at the guy's slowness. One dude yells that there's less than a minute left and tells him to summon his god already, because there's no more time. A close-up reveals the face of the fox deity. The creature finally materializes completely. It's revealed to be Tamamo, floating behind Momo. In the Eagle Nation stands, a man in a hat is shocked, wondering what kind of deity this is. Even the monks from the Tianju nation are staring at her beauty. One of them turns bright red and says his heart skipped a beat when she appeared. Total simp. The people of Huxia comment that they've never seen this deity in the arena before. The crowd hopes Chong Sheng stays focused, but the MC just flashes a confident smile, showing that everything's under control. With total certainty, the young man reveals that she summoned Tamamo, the leader of the Sakura Nation's 3 demonic divine forces. The counter hits 30 seconds, and Chong Sheng says that since he already knows who her deity is, he doesn't need to wait any longer. The MC then approaches the summoning crystal, touching the glowing object with a ton of determination. From a top-down view, we see our guy holding an intense light as he faces Momo and her gigantic 9-tailed fox deity. In his stands, a young man with blue hair watches the arena with surprise. With his hands raised, the representative of Huxia summons a scroll of light, and from it emerges the silhouette of an imposing creature with the face of a boar. In the Huxia cheering section, one of the men is shocked, wondering if Lu Chong Sheng is summoning a demonic deity. A friend of his scolds him, reminding him that their deities are human. The girl next to them explains that the main god controls the type you can summon, and his is Pangu. The image of the boar creature glows intensely. The consequence of summoning a different type of deity is being taken out on the spot. With his hands together, the MC formally introduces himself, welcoming the heavenly general I am Peng. The Sakura Nation's crowd starts to mock them, saying they've run out of tricks and that Huxia's genius is trying something that has gotten everyone who's ever tried it before eliminated. The leader of the Sakura Nation smiles with contempt, believing this is a choice that will get the MC taken out. Suddenly, the deity's form begins to change, and the boar creature transforms into a humanoid warrior, surprising everyone. The Sakura Nation's audience is completely speechless. The Huxia cheering section celebrates the unexpected success, shouting that Chong Sheng is a madman for managing to summon a demon and get away with it. With a smile of relief, the master declares that Pangu, as the creator, is far more complex than they ever imagined. The leader of the Sakura Nation tries to stay confident, saying that although the deity is a demon, he's still a man, and all men fall for Tamamo's charms. The divine warrior finally materializes completely in the arena. With a calm expression, the deity turns to his summoner and asks what the people outside are talking about. The MC explains the situation. He says this is a divine arena where other nations are trying to run all over Huxia. Making a plea, Lu Chong Sheng begs for his help, asking the god to help him fight against the deities from the other nations. The deity sighs and declares that he hates fighting. Then he basically asks why on earth he should care if a bunch of nobodies are invading Huxia. Turning his back on the MC, the warrior starts to walk away, laughing and abandoning his summoner in the middle of the arena. Seeing the warrior walk off, the MC calls out to him, politely asking the general to wait a moment. With a serious expression, the MC asks a question. He wants to know if the deity still wants to see change. He keeps up his attempt to win him over. Playing dirty, he also mentions the warrior's desire to see Wukong and his master again. Surprised, he wonders how the heck this newbie knows the names of Change, the monkey, and the monk. A confident little smirk appears on the MC's face. He claims that not only does he know them, but he also has the power to summon all of them. Basically, he's got their numbers. The deity lets out a mocking laugh. He openly doubts that he has the strength to pull something like that off. With his arms wide open, the MC says he knows the god doesn't want to be anyone's puppet. He guarantees that if he can summon the gods of Huxia, it will restore their dignity. Staring straight at the warrior, he promises to free Change, Wukong, and Zhuanzang. A fire starts to come off the deity's body seriously. He asks if the kid is for real. Suddenly, the warrior goes back to his boar form and grabs the MC. He shows he's ticked off, asking if the kid is messing with him. Even while being held, the MC doesn't show a hint of fear. With a determined look, he asks what the god thinks of another deity. Just then, the giant silhouette of red energy appears behind the N. See the boar-like creature stares at the apparition in shock. The deity recognizes the imposing figure. He whispers the name of Master Pangu, unable to believe what he's seeing. Surprisingly, the giant hand holding the MC opens up. The boy is dropped onto the arena floor. The boar warrior takes a step back, admitting he underestimated the kid. He wonders how the MC managed to summon Master Pangu. The MC asks General Tian Peng if he'd be willing to fight for him now. The general stares at the MC, thinking he says that since Master Pangu is willing to help, it's a whole different story now. Confidently, the deity states that he can trust the summoner, and just like that, the alliance between the two is finally sealed. Cute. Now ready for a fight, General Tian Peng wants to know who they have to crush. He asks to tell him who the enemy is. The two of them turn and look to the other side of the arena. There, the representative from the Sakura Nation, Momo, waits for them in silence. The MC explains that the opponent is a 9-tailed fox deity. She uses her arms to attract men. Basically, she's an expert at roping in the simpes. General Tian Peng comments that he thought the problem would be a lot bigger. In the Sakura Nation stands, the crowd makes fun of the Huxia team. They yell that the fighter has already been enchanted and that his deity is a fat pig. So mean to the little piggy. Suddenly, a powerful weapon slams onto the arena floor. The impact cracks the ground and creates a shockwave of energy. The general's boar form completely vanishes. He transforms into a tall, handsome warrior, standing next to the MC. In the Bangzi Nation's cheering section, a girl is totally smitten. She blushes and says the new deity is so handsome. The monks from the Tanju Nation watch seriously. They comment that the power of Huxia's ancient monster deity should not be underestimated. The leaders of the Eagle Nation also analyze the scene. They wonder if this male deity will be able to resist Tamamotome's charms. Momo slowly approaches the pair. The girl then starts to remove her clothes. She says that both the MC and the deity are handsome. Removing the top part of her outfit, the girl reveals her charm. She gets ready to make an offer that's impossible to refuse. With a confident pose, she shows off her new outfit. The young woman invites Luz and to join the Sakura Nation. A closer look reveals her true intention. She promises that if he accepts, he will be treated like a king. Unlike the nation of Huxia, they wouldn't make someone fight several times in a row. The great Sakura Nation would help him in his deity grow and develop. The proposal seems more and more tempting. In the stands, the white-haired master figures out the strategy. Right away, he understands that this is a psychological attack. The people of Huxia get desperate watching the scene. One of them yells for Chong Sheng not to fall for the opponent's tricks. She continues her offer, promising all the money and power he could ever imagine. On top of all the riches, the girl offers herself as part of the package. Smooth. In the Huxia cheering section, a young man admits that the Sakura Nation might be bad, but the girl is so hot that he would have accepted on the spot. Standing in the middle of the arena, everyone wonders what Lu Chengsheng's decision will be. With a smirk, he simply turns down her offer. The young woman doesn't take no for an answer. She says that if she's not good enough, he can choose any woman from the Sakura Nation. Suddenly, the MC finds himself surrounded by several beautiful girls, all willing to give him lots of love and affection. Ignoring the temptation, the MC makes a move with his hand. He activates an ability called Heavenly Soldier Projection. Now he can also use Tian Peng's weapon. The ninth strike, the divine artifact, appears in his hands, glowing brightly. Momo points at the MC. Disappointed, she regrets his decision, saying he could have had a bright future. With a serious look, the MC remembers an important lesson. He recalls something his history teacher taught him. The story explains that truth is found within the reach of a cannon, and honor within the reach of a blade. Running away would only make the oppression even more brutal. Turning to the crowd, he wonders how he could face the millions of his people if he ran away. In the Huxia stands, the crowd goes wild at the MC's words. One man yells that they have a special treatment reserved for the Sakura Nation. With the rake in hand, Chong Sheng gets ready for the fight. He is the main warrior of Huxia, and his desire is to protect his people and expel the invaders. The scene cuts to the temple of a myriad deities. The young boy is sweeping the courtyard, wiping the sweat from his face. The boy seems to sense something important. He looks up with a certain expectation. A scroll of energy opens up in the sky. The boy celebrates, saying that the nation's fortune is now at least twice as strong. Back in the arena, the MC leaps toward his opponent. He spins the 9th strike in the air, preparing an attack. Momo gets into a defensive stance, holding her fin. An aura of purple energy forms around her to block the blow. The MC's weapon slams into the girl's defense. The impact creates a huge explosion of lightened energy in the middle of the arena. Surprised by the force of the hit, Momo gets a serious look on her face. Seeing that she can't recruit him, the girl decides she's going to have to take him out once and for all. The young woman activates one of her abilities. She uses her ninja arts and creates the shadow clone technique, a classic jutsu. Suddenly, several identical copies of the girl appear on the battlefield. They all surround the MC, ready to attack. One of the clones makes fun of the MC. She wonders what's the point of him defeating Matsumoto, since a brute like him doesn't understand spells. Sizing up the situation, the MC realizes the danger. He thinks that his opponent's power is way beyond Matsumoto's. The young woman then draws her weapon. She gets ready to start the attack with her clones. Using the Nito Ryu technique, all the copies charge forward. At the same time, they launch a powerful slash in the MC's direction. The MC is shocked by the speeding power of the attack. A massive wave of energy closes in fast. Chong Sheng finds himself cornered. The boy tries to defend himself with his rake. The pressure from the multiple attacks is intense. In the stands, the Sakura Nation crowd celebrates. The clones surround the MC, who seems to be in trouble. One of them comments that he's weak and easy to defeat. All the copies get ready for a new combined attack. The girls leap into the air and launch a concentrated energy attack. Amidst the explosions, the MC realizes he has nowhere to run, so he decides to stop running. The MC prepares for a counterattack with his rake. Leaping into the air, Chong Sheng throws his weapon with all his might at the ground. The impact creates a huge explosion of yellow energy. One of the clones tries to block the blow, but the force of the rake is powerful. The MC's weapon slams into the arena floor. The ground cracks and shatters. In the Sakura Nation's cheering session, the spectators are confused. On the arena floor, the defeated girl asks how the MC managed to find her real body. All of her clones have vanished. Elsewhere, the fox deity faces General Tian Peng with a smile. She says that if he kneels, she'll let him have a special reward. In the Kimchi Nation stands, one of the guys says he'd give 10 years of his life just to be near her. Total simp. Meanwhile, the master from Huxia watches. He wonders if his nation's god will be able to resist Tamamotome's charms. The general remembers a girl holding a rabbit. He compares her to the fox deity standing in front of him. With a look of total contempt, Tian Peng gives his answer. He simply says that she's hideous. The fox deity is shocked. She can't believe he just called her hideous. Ignoring her reaction, the general charges forward. He gets ready to attack. In the Sakura Nation's cheering section, the crowd gets angry. They yell for the pig god to look in a mirror. The general attacks the fox with his rake. The young woman is still frozen. This is the first time anyone has ever called her that. Her ego is shattered. With her eyes glowing with rage, she gathers energy in her hands. The deity promises he'll pay dearly. The girl invokes the power of hurl and a gigantic aura forms around her. She channels all her fury into a new power. The ability is called Wrath of the Celestial Demon. A huge wave of purple energy fills the arena. The attack hits the MC's clone that was still on the ground. The MC notices the power boost. He recognizes the technique as one of Japan's 3 divine treasures, the Yata Mirror. Unfazed, General Tian Peng also unleashes his energy. The 2 divine warriors face each other in the middle of the arena. The fox deity gets ready to launch her celestial demon spirit strike. Tian Peng swings his rake with full force to counter the attack. The 2 energies are about to collide in an explosion. The rake swings and blocks the attack. The madman charges forward. He manages to wound the big fox lady. The MC, with a front row seat to the whole mess, is just jaw drop. He realizes this Tamamo chick is an SSS level deity, basically the Sakura Nation's ace in the hole. But to everyone's surprise, the general, who's only an SS level, is running circles around her without even breaking a sweat. That's when the MC gets that a level is just a number, even in the world of the gods. The fox deity wipes her mouth, and some ketchup drips down, proving the big guy really got her good. Rocking a new look, she stares down her opponent. Then, the girl suddenly starts gathering a strange energy. The air around her gets heavier than me after Thanksgiving dinner. Over in the Huxia Nation's stands, the crowd is wondering why the sun took a sudden vacation without telling anyone. Floating in the air, the fox deity preps a new attack. She yells for the filthy pig to go down already. The lady then reveals the name of her ultimate technique, calling it fox fire that burns the heavens. Next, a wave hits the general full force. The impact creates an explosion so huge it just wrecks the whole place. The attack keeps exploding with insane force. The entire battlefield is shaking. In the stands, the master from Huxia watches the scene in silence. But in the middle of all that chaos, General Tian Peng refuses to get roasted. He raises his hand and summons the power of water to defend himself. Suddenly, the big guy unleashes his power with a light so bright it hurts your eyes. The light then reveals the bodies of 2 celestial beings. They work all in to lend the general a hand in the fight, cause that's what friends are for. The fox deity is caught completely off guard by the new explosion. She's simply swallowed by her opponent's golden energy. From the stands, the pink-haired girl watches it all happen. She's in total shock. Suddenly, the fox finds herself in a completely different place. She's now surrounded by floating rocks. With a look of someone who's completely lost, the fox looks up. She has no idea what happened or where she ended up. Out of nowhere, a giant whirlpool of blue energy forms in the sky. Water starts taking over everything. And who's that floating in the middle of the water? The big pig guy who seems to be controlling this new power like it's the easiest thing in the world. The fox deity is blown away by the sight. She wonders where on earth all that water came from. With a serious look, the general answers. He reveals that this is the water of the celestial river. With his rake in hand, the warrior controls the water around him. Using the power of the wind, Tian Peng rushes forward at an insane speed. He flies toward the fox deity, ready to strike. The Sakura Nation's cheering section just can't believe what they're seeing. The look of despair on everyone's faces is priceless. In the air, the general preps his final blow with the rake. Desperate, the fox summons a divine stone to protect herself. She creates a purple energy shield to try and block the hit. The general's staff clashes with the fox's defense. The impact creates a blast of light you'd probably only have seen 66 million years ago. The fox's so-called divine stone starts to crack under the big guy's pressure. Then, the stone turns to dust. The girl is shocked to see her best defense shatter like it was made of glass. Lying on the ground, the deity looks totally wiped out. She took one heck of a beating. Meanwhile, in the Huxia Nation stands, the crowd goes wild. They're cheering that Tian Peng totally smashed the fox. But the audience from the Sakura Nation is dead silent. The defeat of their strongest deity left everyone speechless. Back in the arena, the general spins his rake. He gets ready to sweep the field with his water energy. With a swift move, the warrior passes right through the fox deity. He goes through her like she's a ghost. Tian Peng turns around with a surprised look on his face, not understanding why his attack didn't hit anything. Then he sees that he had actually only hit a clone. The fox just watches. From somewhere, the MC watches the fight with a serious expression. Suddenly, the fox deity appears right in front of the MC. She wonders when such a tough-as-nails summoner popped up in Huxia. The big pig guy gives a confident little smirk and says he's just getting started. Using his water light transport ability, he appears right next to his opponent. Super quick, he lands a solid punch right in the fox's face. The girl gets thrown back by the force of the impact, making for a pretty nice shot. The pig dude made the poor girl spill her ketchup all over again. With a look of pure rage, she glares at him. The lady admits he's a worthy opponent. A dark, purple aura starts coming out of the fox's tails. The deity slowly gets up, shrouded in a sinister energy. And just like it's no big deal, the fox deity summons 3 spirits suddenly. The entire arena is flooded with the pink energy. In the Sakura Nation's crowd, the audience recognizes the country's 3 strongest demons and already declares it's game over for Huxia. One of the spirits, in his raging Oni form, yells that it's time for the Huxia god to go down. Another one of the summons creates a field of swords. The purple energy turns into sharp blades. The last spirit summoned is Amaterasu herself. Even surrounded, he gets ready to use the famous Thirdaski's forms. A shower of energy, swords, and feathers clashes with the spirit's power. The warrior then says that those are just spiritual forms. He says he wouldn't be scared even if they were the real gods. The fox deity asks why he's running away like a coward. The general replies, who said anything about running? Standing tall, the general declares himself the king of heaven and earth. With a wave of his hands, he summons the power of the celestial rivers. Water, a powerful blue aura, starts to surround him. Holding his staff, the warrior channels all the water's energy directly into his legendary weapon. The staff is then plunged into a massive whirlpool of power. Introducing himself as the great martial Tian Peng, he shows off some intimidating confidence. In the middle of an ocean of pure energy, he claims that all the water from the sky to the sea is under his control, and the wave of energy rushes toward the fox's summons. The blue wave of power surges forward. The pink summons start to fall apart as they touch the water. Amaterasu, the strongest of the 3, gets rattled by his audacity. The general watches the goddess release a pink sphere of energy and attack heads right for him. Using his staff, the warrior defends himself from a shower of bullets. The clash between the 2 powers creates an explosion. The light from the impact blinds everyone in the arena for a second. In the Sakura Nation stands, they're yelling that it has to be a miracle from the gods. The force of the explosion is too great. The general's body is violently hurled away. He crashes hard onto the arena floor. His legendary weapon slides far away. The Huxia Nation's crowd is in complete shock. The pink spirits close in on the big pig guy's fallen body. It looks like the victory has finally been decided. Amaterasu just watches. Her spiritual presence completely dominates the battlefield. With a voice dripping with disgust, the goddess lets her venom fly. She calls him a useless monster who's good for nothing. However, the general's hand clenches and starts to glow. He summons the heart of Shangbaoken, his ultimate weapon. The goddess Amaterasu is confused. She wonders why the general is still moving. With his hand glowing, the big guy focuses on mysterious energy. Suddenly, he grabs a hold of the goddess's spiritual form. In a panic, she realizes her power has been drained. She can't use any of her abilities anymore. That's when the general reveals his boar monster form. The boar stands, full of rage. With a brutal smash on the ground, the beast shatters Amaterasu's spirit into pieces. Right after that, he goes after the other spirits. In the stands, the Huxia crowd celebrates. They're saying that watching the Sakura Nation's gods take a beating is just good. Amaterasu's spirit slowly fades away. She vows she won't forget what happened here. Holds a bigger grudge than my ex. After dealing with the spirits, the boar monster turns around, going after the big fox lady. He lands a finishing blow on the girl. The system announces that Tamamo has been completely eliminated from the battle. Reverting to his human form, the boar's body starts to fall. The MC runs toward him, calling his name. With a serious expression, he tells the MC not to come any closer. The MC is confused. He calls out for the marshal again, not understanding him. With no strength left, he drops to his knees, completely wiped out after the battle. The Huxia audience is stunned. No one can believe that the mighty boar has finally fallen. The guy then explains that he doesn't want to be seen like that. Looks like he doesn't want to seem weak. Out of nowhere, he starts venting, saying he was always an inspiration to the MC, but on the inside, he feels like a coward. In a final request, he begs the MC to find his brother and his master. He just wants them to know he fought until the very end. With his eyes full of tears, the MC yells he wants the marshal himself to go tell them he's not a coward. Kneeling beside the general's body, the MC turns to the crowd. He asks all the people of Huxia to offer their respect to the deity who fought until the end. In the middle of the crowd, an older master seems to be the only one who got what was going on. Then, the old man starts to panic and yells for everyone to bring food offerings. Even at home, a lady who was watching the throwdown on TV runs to grab some food. She also prepares her offering for Marshal Tian Peng. Suddenly, a golden light fills the arena. The offerings from all the people turn into pure energy, like some kind of divine food delivery service. All that golden energy becomes the general's boar spirit, and very slowly, the creature starts to open its eyes. Then, the marshal's spiritual form ray emerges. He is now officially an SS class god. The announcer introduces round number 4 of the mythic arena battle. The next showdown will be between the Huxia Nation and the Sakura Nation. The woman declares that the Huxia Nation has won the battle. With his back to the audience, the MC just watches that victory was a real nail-biter. The story explains that it was a decisive and chilling moment. In the Huxia audience, the people pray for the marshal's recovery. Tears start to stream down the MC's face. He got seriously emotional. Out of nowhere, the marshal pops up and tells the MC to stop crying. crying, he lets him know he didn't kick the bucket this time. Putting his arm around the kid's shoulder, the warrior says with a huge grin that they won the fight. Meanwhile, in the Bangzi nation, some hater complains that Huxia just got lucky. He adds that they're vulnerable now. The marshal then turns to Chong Sheng and says the next step is up to him. With a confident smile, the warrior says that now it's time to go find his wife. With that, he starts to walk away. The MC calls out to him, trying to get the guy to stay. Looking back, the marshal tells the MC not to forget their promise, and his body begins to fade away. The MC just stands there, silent. He can only watch as his mentor disappears right in front of him. Then, he shouts, wishing Marshal Tian Peng well wherever he goes. In the stands, the Huxia crowd watches it all. Everyone gets emotional over this farewell. The marshal's spiritual form glows and its golden light ascends straight to the heavens. The old man then gives an order. He wants the deeds of the god Marshal Tian Peng to be known by all. The elder warns them not to let the gods of Huxia be forgotten again. Out of the blue, a man with long hair appears and a fiery phoenix materializes beside him. Watching the broadcast, a man on the other side looks angry. With tears in their eyes, the people feel like ungrateful jerks for having forgotten their own gods. The old guy shows up and says they still have a future, and the young MC is Huxia's greatest hope now. In the arena, the kid waves goodbye. In a different place, a mysterious figure holds his sword. He's already getting ready for another brawl. His opponent, a creature called Yahello, is on the ground, defeated. With his sword, the warrior takes down several enemies at once in another reality. A girl gets hit too. Soon after, that lady also goes down. The warrior looks down with a serious expression. He hopes he's not too late. Back in the arena, the announcer calls the fight around. The battle that will decide everything between Huxia and the Sakura nation is about to begin. She praises Huxia's incredible resilience, saying this final battle will determine the fate of half the territory of both nations. The woman asks both sides to send their representatives for the final showdown. The MC is already getting ready to enter the arena. He feels like it's his turn now. Suddenly, someone seems to want to stop him. It was the man in the suit. The man says the kid has already done a lot, and that now it's his turn to fight. Let Dad handle this, basically. The MC, of course, starts to argue, saying he knows the secret history of the gods. The man in the suit then explains that the kid's compatibility is really bad. He wouldn't be able to handle the Sakura nation's ace. Then he reveals he was once a genius full of hope and summons the spirit of Zhao Zilong. From a distance, a warrior watches the MC bickering with Lao Bai. With a smile, Lao Bai turns to the young man and comments that he thought the guy wouldn't make it today. The warrior says he couldn't be late for such an important moment, but he warns that the Sakura nation's spies are pretty slick. With a worried expression, he says their time is running out way too fast. A 30-second countdown pops up on the screen, and the tension in the arena just keeps building. Wasting no time, the warrior leaps into the center of the arena. Introducing himself as a Yu King from Huxia, he challenges anyone who dares to face him in combat. On the other side, the representative from the Sakura nation shows up, giving his opponent a nasty look. In the Sakura nation section of the crowd, their young representative gets ready. A purple energy erupts on the scene, already making its way to the arena. Surrounded by a purple aura, he introduces himself. His name is Yamata, the Sakura nation's big ace. Over in the Sakura kingdom's cheering section, the crowd is super confident. They think this match is already in the bag. Meanwhile, the Huxia crowd is on edge. They recognize this Yamata guy, the so-called divine boy. The old man explains that this dude is the greatest prodigy the Sakura kingdom has seen in 4,000 years. He continues, saying that his opponent is an SS-class divine chosen 1/8 Odal beast. In the arena, Yamata waits. His presence alone is enough to send a shiver down your spine. The old man reveals a fact about his past. On his 18th birthday, he defeated Huxia's third strongest expert. For a gift, he demanded the master's life. A flashback takes us 9 years into the past, to the waters of the East Sea, where a lone boy is seen. Back then, young Yamata was standing on the sinew of a giant dragon, and a Huxia expert was looking at him in total shock. He checks out the glowing material and says the piece is super sturdy, perfect for making a bow for his sister. How sweet. Without a second thought, the guy rips the sinew right out of the dragon's body with absurd strength. Holding the glowing item in his hands, the young man stares ahead. The image shows the giant creature defeated in the water, with Yamata standing over the dragon god. Back in the present, the old man reveals another detail. Yamata's divinity is one of the 3 supreme gods of the Sakura kingdom, with an 80% compatibility rate. The MC next to him clenches his fist tightly. He swears that if the sword immortal loses, he'll challenge Yamata himself. Inside the arena, Yamata faces his opponent. He says he's heard of Huxia's immortality cultivators. In response, the king begins to draw his sword from its sheath. Engulfed in a blue aura, he raises his weapon. The guy declares that there's no need for more talk. Furious, Liu King says that 10 years ago, this guy caused droughts and famine by taking down the East Sea Dragon God. A terrible scene shows a city where people are lying on the ground, victims of hunger and thirst. A child begs her mother for water, but the woman can only ask her little one to hold on a bit longer. The mother weeps in sorrow. In the arena, the two competitors stare each other down. The atmosphere is heavy. With a smirk, Yamata says his opponent should feel honored, completely underestimating the Huxia warrior's strength. The guy continues his taunts, saying that fighting one chosen by the 3 great gods is a privilege. Dude's got a bigger ego than my ex. He claims that judgment will be delivered by his sister and that the starving people will bow down to him. The Huxia crowd is outraged. They say the Yamata family plunges others into famine just for their own selfish desires. Our MC watches in disgust, realizing that Yamata's heart is consumed by hatred. With his eyes on the arena, the MC understands that he has to take this scum down, no matter what. The announcer returns to the spotlight. She announces that the competitors have been confirmed and their personal information will be displayed. Before the fight even begins, King has already floored. The info reveals that Yamata is an SS class divine chosen one, while King is only an S class. In the Grand Eagle Empire's auditorium, the old man orders them to declare war on Huxia as soon as they are defeated. Meanwhile, in the Rodon Kingdom, a man is already planning his next move. He intends to make Huxia return all the treasures they lost. The Tianju Kingdom also sees an opportunity. Their leader believes Huxia doesn't stand a chance against the war god Susanoo. The bald guy plans to make Huxia a sacrificial offering to Lord Shiva. Back in the arena, a purple energy surges behind Yamata. The energy materializes into a giant warrior. It's Yamata's divinity, the mighty god Susanoo. The Sakura Kingdom's crowd goes wild, screaming that they're going to crush Huxia. The old man from Huxia watches and predicts that this is going to be a very tough battle. However, King also summons his power. The god Libai appears behind him. The announcer declares that both sides have successfully summoned their divinities, and that the final battle between Huxia and the Sakura Kingdom begins now. The battle kicks off with the god Li by chugging some divine pre-workout. The divinity then feels ready to throw down. However, the god suddenly starts complaining about being lonely and even recites a poem. Man, being needy is complicated. Staring at the arena, the divinity wonders where all his old friends went. On the other side, Yamata taunts his opponent, telling him he's still got his head in the clouds. The boy raises his weapon, and a purple energy starts to gather around him. Just then, a light descends from the heavens, straight for King. The divine weapon hits the ground with an insane impact. The move, called Divine Punishment, causes an energy blast that shakes everything. With a furious expression, Yamata glares at his opponent, accusing him of acting like he's hot stuff. The powerful attack slams King to the ground, leaving him badly wounded. He even spits a little ketchup across the arena. But King, along with his god, charges straight at Yamata. However, Susanoo's attacks are just too strong. With that, the Huxia warrior gets thrown back again. One of those hits nails him dead on, looking like a bamboo spear. From the impact, King drops to his knees on the arena floor as the purple energy around him begins to spread. In the audience, the Huxia crowd is in shock. The folks are saying that the Sword Immortal has never lost a fight in his life. The MC appears, refusing to believe the battle is already over. Suddenly, a golden light erupts from King, and he utters the line, "When the fruit of the Tao ripens, the five eyes see clearly." The warrior gets back up, completely refreshed, continuing his philosophical moment by saying that when the sun rises, the stars disappear. At that moment, a powerful golden aura envelops his body, and he begins to gather an absurd amount of energy. With a simple hand gesture, the energy starts to appear, molding itself into a shape. A sword made of golden light appears in his hands. Now we're talking. The immortal is ready to use his real power. The old man in the crowd explains that this is the immortal's Tao fruit, which has taken the form of a sword. The MC is confused by the explanation, asking what the heck a Tao fruit is. The old man explains that every divine follower gains an essence. This essence can be a Tao fruit, a divine infant, or a golden core. And he finishes his thought. Once that essence appears, the fight becomes a matter of life or it's lights out. The MC understands how serious the situation is. The Sword Immortal is betting everything on this fight. On the other side of the arena, Yamata glares at him with contempt, wondering if his opponent has completely lost his mind. The kid even warns that even if King wins, he won't have much time left, since using that power is basically taking himself out. But the warrior couldn't care less about the warning. He says his sword heart was forged in decades of battle. Holding his weapon, he laments the situation, saying that destroying it today is a real shame. A flashback shows King on a battlefield, proving he's fought countless times to protect his people. Back in the arena, the warrior faces Yamata from a distance, his golden sword glowing brightly. With a mocking look, Yamata taunts him, asking how he has the nerve to fight him. King then explains that his Tao fruit is his sword. He is also the guardian of 10,000 families and their lights. The kid from the Sakura Kingdom doesn't seem to care. The Sword Immortal invokes his ability, shouting for the swords to come to him. Out of nowhere, countless swords fly out of their sheaths from the audience. One of them nearly hits a spectator. Each of these weapons is based on golden energy, becoming extensions of the warrior's power. Surrounded by an army of floating swords, King challenges the spoiled brat to face him head-on, if he's got the guts. The god Levi watches the scene with a smile. He comments that it's the first time he's seen a mortal be so arrogant. The divinity continues, wondering how he could ever bow to the powerful and sacrifice his pride. On the other side, the god Susanoo just scoffs at the whole situation, unfazed by the attacks. With that, Liu King rushes toward Yamata, preparing his final attack with the golden sword. Seeing the attack coming, Yamata realizes things just got serious. The sword comes down with immense force as the Huxia warrior pours all his power into this one strike. At the last second, Yamata uses a high-speed movement technique, trying to dodge the attack. The kid manages to leap away from the impact zone, escaping the army of swords. Seeing his chosen one in trouble, Susanoo decides to intervene. The divinity raises his hand and unleashes a massive purple energy, activating his ability called Heavenly Power Domain. The purple energy expands across the arena and starts to clash with Liu King's golden swords. With a slight smile on his face, Liu King seems to calmly accept his fate. He lunges forward with his golden sword in a powerful strike. The golden strike hits Susanoo's purple energy barrier, and the god's defense begins to crack. Even with his barrier cracking, Susanoo seems to be having fun. The divinity doesn't just stand there and starts gathering more power things or getting nasty. With the built-up energy, he forges a giant sword, getting ready for a counterattack. Yamata announces the end of the fight, saying that divine judgment has finally arrived. Susanoo unleashes his full attack on Liu King, blasting beams of purple energy right at the warrior. The sword immortal is hit head-on by the attack. His body is engulfed in purple energy, and he screams in pain. In the Huxia crowd, everyone freaks out. Liu King's body is completely swallowed up, and he lets out a scream of agony as he's struck by the divine power. Meanwhile, the leaders of other nations watch as Liu King's hologram disintegrates in the center of the room. The senior executive from Tianju smiles. He says that with the outcome decided, they need to discuss how to carve up Huxia's lands. Acting all smug, he draws a line on a holographic map. He declares that the victorious Sakura country demands half of the land and population. Beside him, the representative from the Sakura kingdom just nods in agreement. Continuing his speech, the man from Tianju reveals his own demand. His country will receive 1/3 of everything. The representative from Bangzi is outraged, wondering why Yeonju should get the biggest piece of what's left. Furious, the Bangzi executive declares that the division is completely unfair. Without a word, the man from Tianju slowly walks toward the Bangzi representative. Suddenly, he lands a massive slap across the other guy's face, sending him to the floor. On the floor, the Bangzi executive clutches his sore face. With a threatening glare, he asks if the man wants the glory of the god Shiva to spread throughout his entire capital. Terrified by the threat, the Bangzi executive stammers and says that sounds just fine. Back in the arena, the battle doesn't seem to be over. Yamata drags his gigantic sword across the arena floor. The warrior's weapon glows, his expression locked in on the fight about to begin. Yamata observes, thinking to himself that the guy's mind and body are one. The kid realizes his opponent's state is near perfect. Because of that, he needs to create a mental opening to have a chance to counterattack. Yamata then tries something. He warns the warrior that he's burning through his essence and can't keep this power up for long. He offers one last chance. If the man joins his country, he'll receive power and wealth. The warrior repeats Yamata's words, wondering about this whole national treasure thing. With a smirk, Yamata confirms that's exactly right and that the offer is the real deal. Without a second thought, the man from Huxia charges forward with his sword, showing he doesn't care about the offer. Surprised by the refusal, Yamata raises his weapon to defend against the attack. The blades clash in an explosion of energy, and the impact is so strong it cracks the arena floor. The warrior glares at his opponent and says that despite the pretty words, he can see the fear in his eyes. Holding his sword tightly, Yamata tells him to watch closely, as the outcome is about to be decided. He then looks up to the sky, where Liu King is still being tormented by Susanoo's purple energy. In the midst of his ordeal, Liu King yells that he can trust, because he has to destroy that face. Watching everything, the god Li Bai maintains a calm expression. One of the leaders in the observation room comments on how resilient the Huxia god is, but that he's suffering a lot. Yamata continues his taunts. He says that his god's divine radiance brings salvation, and that the Huxia god is done for. The warrior responds with a question. If the gods aren't greedy, why can't they tolerate a little bit of disrespect? He then questions what divine radiance they truly possess. An image from the past comes to his mind, showing the tragic loss of the soldiers and starving people of Huxia. He declares that everyone is a free being and wonders who the gods are to look down on them. In the crowd, the MC looks at the arena in anguish and says he can't wait any longer. With all his might, he starts shouting to encourage the warrior in the arena. With that, the entire Huxia crowd joins the chant to give their champion strength. The words of encouragement reach the arena, getting through to Liu King, who's still resisting the divine punishment. Hearing the words, Liu King is touched. He says that those words spoke directly to his heart. He drinks from his glowing booze, feeling as if he's become someone else. Watching the scene from afar, the god Susanoo looks surprised and intrigued by this change. Out of the absolute blue, the purple energy chains holding the warrior shatter into 1,000 tiny pieces. Over in the Sakura Kingdom's cheering section, the crowd is totally jaw-dropped, with no idea how he managed to escape the war god's punishment. The god Susanoo then draws his sword. With a furious look, he announces that he's going to take Liu King down. Just Just then, a sinister purple energy envelops the divinity's sword as he charges full speed at Liu King. The story explains that ancient record shows Susanoo using the Teotsuka sword to put an end to the eight-headed serpent. And that's how the Yamato swordsmanship was born, a legendary technique he created with that very same sword. With that classic villain smirk, Susanoo brags about using this technique to take out the evil gods of Takamagahara. The king defends with all his might, feeling the overwhelming power of the blow. From the top of a roof, the warrior watches Susanoo floating in the sky, while the arena lies completely in ruins. Meanwhile, in the Sakura country's crowd, two guys are celebrating with smiles on their faces, already claiming victory and thinking the gods of Huxia have lost. But Susanoo starts mocking his enemy's technique, saying his sword looks like a toy. Yamata points to himself proudly, bragging that he withstood the strongest attack without even scratching his defenses. Turning to his new opponent, Yamata reveals he has armor forged from thunder and warns that his opponent's power won't last long. Then the Huxia warrior lays it on the line. If one sword isn't enough, he'll use another. Out of nowhere, countless swords of light appear behind the man, and he declares that if 10,000 don't work, he'll use 10 million. Talk about sword inflation. The warrior affirms that he will keep moving forward, even if the path is insanely tough. Wasting no time, Yamata dashes at high speed toward his enemy to start the attack. Susanoo attacks with everything he's got, yelling that his technique finishes off anyone. With a wicked grin on his face, the divinity wonders how his opponent has the audacity to draw a sword against him. Then he gets ready to take a sip of his mysterious drink. Must be some kind of divine energy drink. The divinity drinks the liquid from the gourd to recover his energy and power. The distance between them is huge, and Susanoo just watches his adversary prepare for his next move. Suddenly, the god from the Sakura country kneels and plunges his blade into the arena floor. As he lifts his head, Susanoo looks confused, having no idea what the heck is happening on the other side. Meanwhile, the Huxia warrior and his god meet in mid-air, creating a gigantic lotus flower together. Countless beams of green light spread across the battlefield, activating the green lotus sword technique. With a confident look, the god Libai reveals the name of his weapon, the green lotus sword. Susanoo, in turn, uses his most powerful technique, unleashing the celestial thunder from his two swords. The attack is so strong that the sky itself seems to crack. At this, the Huxia crowd panics just when they thought things were looking up. It all went down the drain. The old man comments that the situation has become critical and that even with the sword god's strongest technique, he seems to be afraid. With a defeated look, the leader says there's absolutely nothing left of the green lotus technique. Things went south. The MC gets ticked off and complains that the sword god he knows is way stronger than this. Then, Susanoo starts bragging about his incredible techniques. The divinity says he's the opponent carrying the hopes of the world. Talk about humble. During the clash of blades, Susanoo yells that he fights for the people of his nation. But Liu King questions him, wondering if the god really fights for the people. The warrior points out that Susanoo's aura is filled only with brutality and the desire to end lives. With an angry expression, the divinity wonders what the other guy is talking about. The Huxia combatant replies that his words are just excuses to hide his true nature. Enraged by the accusation, Susanoo fills with a powerful purple energy and charges forward. The two divinities collide in an explosion of power. Suddenly, Liu King's sword shatters into several pieces, unable to withstand the force of the impact. Over in the Huxia crowd, everyone is shocked, commenting that the immortal sword broke and that it's all over now. With his face all bruised, the god of Huxia realizes things are looking really grim. Lying on the ground, he's furious that after resisting so much, he's about to be done for. The MC then looks at the arena and sees that the situation is bad. So, he asks everyone to start shouting words of encouragement from the book. With a focused gaze, he says that the strength is for the immortal Libai. And just like that, he starts reciting out loud with the other students following his leaden reading from their books. With passion in his voice, the kid recites a verse about traveling 1,000 miles without leaving a trace. In the arena, Libai hears the poems he's never heard them before, but he feels a connection to them. With that, a new strength starts flowing through his veins, and he feels the power of millennia traveling to him, giving him strength. Watching the scene, Susanoo is shocked, unable to understand what's happening to his opponent. At that moment, a gigantic energy sword forms, and Libai yells that his sword stretches for 30,000 miles and shines across 19 continents. Get dead on by the attack, Susanoo's face gets all messed up. Filled with fury, the divinity says that Insect actually managed to take him off. In the arena, the Sakura divinity readies his spear. In the Sakura country's crowd, two guys are watching. One of them comments that Susanoo has lost all his arrogance and holiness. Now all that's left is the desire to take everyone out. On the Huxia side, the god watches with concern. Elsewhere, a group of young people discusses Yamata Takami's attitude. They realize there must be a reason for the way he treats human life like trash. The MC says this shows that Susanoo's true nature is brutality and the will to end lives. With that, a dark memory surfaces with a voice saying they need to ensure the safety of the broth offerings as the master is waiting to be fed. Next, a group of ancient-looking people looks up, wondering what they did wrong to deserve such a cruel fate. The scene shows all of them fallen on the ground, serving as energy offerings to strengthen this so-called master. Back in the present, the MC explains his theory, saying that the Chosen One's personality is influenced by their god. Just then, in the arena, Susanoo flashes a wicked smile, congratulating his opponent on telling him he's about to meet his end in the cruelest way possible. With a sadistic glare, the Sakura god reveals the name of his technique, Dark Night of Decay. Wasting no more time, the divinity rushes forward, launching a massive attack of dark energy toward Li Bai. The attack is a wave of purple and black power moving across the destroyed arena. The MC is completely shocked, stunned by the scene. Seeing the overwhelming power approach, he can only think the worst. The energy of decay sweeps across the battlefield, with the dark power consuming everything it touches. With that, Li Bai is swallowed by the technique. The clash of powers creates an explosion of white and purple light, and the sound of the impact echoes throughout the entire stadium. In the Huxia cheering section, the old man shouts in desperation, calling out for the sword immortal. After the explosion, the dark energy slowly begins to dissipate, revealing someone standing. Up close, we see the sword immortal has aged drastically. His face is covered in wrinkles, and his hair has turned completely white. Looks like Father Time finally caught up to him. Poor guy. In the crowd, a spectator is in shock, wondering how the immortal turned into an old man and what terrible power can control time. A girl next to him comments that Susanoo, after falling to darkness, seems even more terrifying. However, the MC says there's still a chance, stating that while Li Bai's sword is unmatched, there's a secret to Huxia's history. With a determined look, he reveals the truth. Li Bai is also known as the most brilliant poet immortal. Back in the arena, the old Li Bai remains standing, surrounded by a purple aura of decay that consumes the ground around him. Without hesitation, Susanoo leaps toward his opponent, raising his two blades for a final blow. Li Bai tries to defend himself but is hit hard. With a victorious smile, Susanoo makes a promise. He will crush every bone in his opponent's body and let his divinity be trampled by his people. On the ground, Li Bai leans on his sword and his gourd, wondering if there's really nothing they can do to win. Watching the scene, the MC decides to act again, as some poems have already been lost to time. He then steps in front of his group and declares that, this time, he's going to carry the whole burden himself, because he believes Huaxia's civilization has evolved. With passion in his voice, the young man begins to recite a poem, speaking of the living being passengers and the departed returning home. His friends are confused and question him, and another guy explains that he's giving the sword immortal a new divinity through the verses. The effort is so intense that the MC ends up coughing up some stuff. The energy needed to do this kind of thing is just insane. The old man tries to stop him, telling him not to push himself any further. Ignoring the pain, he continues reciting the poem with all his might, and the words echo with an ancient power. In the arena, Li Bai is down as the words of the poem flood around him, granting him new strength. Li Bai's sword glows on the ground, and the poem's words question the importance of life's struggles in the face of time's immensity. With a final shout, the young man recites the last stanza, saying that heaven created him to be useful and that even if he loses everything, it will all return again. In the arena, the sword immortal raises his gourd and drinks the special liquid to regain his strength. With a smile, he says that everything's alright now. The warrior takes a step forward, totally refreshed and ready for whatever comes next. Li Bai busts out his technique, using the 7 stir steps and leaving a trail of energy lotus flowers. With that, his sword begins to glow with an intense blue light. Then, with a swift move, he spins in the air and, just to make things more poetic, the immortal activates his drunken embrace of the sun, moon, and stars technique. Seeing all these shenanigans, Susanoo is totally floored. He just can trap his head around how a foreign god is messing with time. Meanwhile, the other guy is already celebrating with a victory laugh, calling it that his opponent is weaker than dishwater. The young man then grips the hilt of his own sword, ready to jump into the fray if things get dicey. With a serious look, he analyzes the Huaxia god and notices his aura is weak, but it looks like he's still got a trick up his sleeve. Looking at the two combatants in the arena, the kid says this is in the bag. Down in the arena, Li Bai faces his opponent and admits that this is the strongest adversary he's ever faced in his life. With a wicked smile on his face, Susanoo replies that he feels aura guilt about using evil and sin to win. Looking up at the sky, the Sakura god continues, saying that after all, this was the path he chose for himself. Suddenly, a purple energy begins to surge around him, so intense that even space itself starts to distort. Surrounded by lightning, Susanoo declares with all the conviction in the world that he was born to shine at this very moment. Looking like a total maniac, the divinity shouts for everyone to hear that he loves this world. In the Sakura country's crowd, the fans are already rushing to defend their idol. One of them says he only used all that power to protect everyone, so no one can judge. Another fan still thinks the war god loves the world, even though he's hit rock bottom. The master from the Sakura country observes everything, commenting that their national power is growing, which gives the gods more faith. Back in the arena, an intense light cuts through the scene, and the energy transforms into a field of purple flowers. Next, he holds the Huxia sword, its blade glowing with a bluish light. Then, Susanoo lunges with a powerful attack, but Levi manages to defend, creating a sphere of energy on impact that makes everything tremble. With that, the sword immortal is thrown back by the force of the blow and realizes his opponent's divine power has jacked up like crazy. With a shocked expression, Levi notices the change, unable to believe that underneath all that crudeness, his enemy was hiding so much power. Just then, the purple energy explodes around Susanoo, forcing Levi to defend against a massive attack. Far away, the MC looks totally wiped. The story explains that granting divinity to other gods costs you your own life force. A spiritual image of Levi appears as the young man reflects, thinking that in thousands of years, no one has ever surpassed the poet immortal's talent. With a hand on his chest and coughing, he feels the pain of the sacrifice and wonders if he can still handle the strain of giving more power to someone else. In the arena, the sword immortal soars through the air as he prepares to attack with everything he's got. With an agile move, Levi executes a precise slash. But even with this new power, Levi is forced to his knees, pinned down by a relentless, massive wave of purple energy. In the Huxia crowd, a spectator drops to his knees in despair, saying that in the end, all their effort seems to have been for nothing. Easy there, buddy, it's not over yet. But gritting his teeth, our favorite MC doesn't give up. He affirms that to win, they'll pay any price, and starts hunting for a poem to give Levi that final boost. Lying on the arena floor, the sword immortal is completely exhausted, with his sword and gourd dropped beside him. With an agonized expression, Levi wonders if all the power he managed to gather still isn't enough to win. The warrior's hand reaches for his gourd on the ground, calling it his old friend and asking it to join him on his final journey. At that moment, the young wrestler begins to mentally list several of Levi's famous poems. He needs to pick the perfect verse to unleash the poet's true power. Suddenly, a smile appears on his face. The kid remembers that there's also the Song of the River. An ancient text appears, explaining the poem. It's less known, but it was written by Levi during a rough patch in his life. The MC then speaks the verses, believing the poem will awaken Levi's divinity. He shouts the words of the poem, which speak of a brush that moves peaks and a laugh that defies the vast sea. In the arena, a golden aura surges behind Levi, and the warrior gets up, surprised by the new wave of power enveloping him. With a determined look, the immortal remembers his true purpose, to write a poem that surpasses every other poet in history. The Huxia god looks back and sees a golden spirit, the pure manifestation of his poetic power, now by his side. The golden spirit's hand holds a glowing brush, ready to write the fate of this battle. The pen is mightier than the sword, who knew? Several golden spiritual figures appear around the warrior, wondering how an unknown young man possesses such great poetic talent. With a slight smile, Levi acknowledges the power of the new generation. Looking at the arena, the MC recites another verse, saying one must live life to the fullest, never leaving the cup empty under the moon. A vision of the past appears to Levi, who remembers simpler times as a golden spirit in the form of a bird flies by. The MC feels the weight of the power he's summoned. He falls silent, exhausted, but his job is done. You can rest now, warrior. In one image, Levi's sword, brush, and gourd are shown together, representing the union of the warrior, the poet, and the good drinker. With his sword glowing, the warrior stands up, stating that only today does he know who he truly is. Up close, we see the determination on his face. Levi reveals that his sword is the youthful spirit of his life as the immortal poet. Surrounded by an aura of power, the immortal lunges forward with agility, ready to crash the party. He pours all of his poetic essence into a single strike. After the decisive attack, the dust settles in the arena. Susanoo is on the ground, completely defeated, while Levi remains standing. Huxia's victory is clear. The god from Sakura was already motionless, with absolutely no chance of recovering from the final blow. Slowly, Susanoo's body begins to fade away. A golden spirit bows before Levi as a sign of respect, while the poet recites a verse about voices calling from both shores. The scene ends with the poem coming to life, a lone boat that has already passed through 10,000 layers of mountains, completing its journey. With that, Susanoo's spirit finally fades completely, and in the arena, Levi and the young wrestler remain standing, victorious. Ticked off, the young guy from Sakura says it doesn't matter that the god was defeated. He is seriously fuming. Then, he leaps toward the sword immortal, yelling that there's still someone left on stage to fight. Levi's face is shown, serious as he watches the psycho approach. In an outward backdrop, the wrestler launches a surprise attack, revealing himself as the final opponent. Suddenly, the guy's face fills with shock, as if he's not in control of his own body. Far away, the audience from the Sakura Nation is in complete despair, wondering how Huxia managed to turn the tables. Meanwhile, the Huxia crowd is going wild, celebrating the miraculous comeback from 0 to 2 to 3 to 2. The entire crowd is chanting Lu Shen's name. Everyone is shouting that it's all thanks to him and that Huxia is going to win. Back in the audience, a spectator points to the arena with a surprised look, yelling that the sword immortal is changing. The scene shows Levi sitting on the ground, looking drained, as a spiritual version of himself emerges from his back. An aura of energy surrounds the warrior's body, and power begins to concentrate around him. From the built-up energy, a golden form appears. The spiritual figure forms into a younger version of the poet, and a system window announces that Liu King has awakened the SSS-RANK god. With a determined look, the original Li Bai speaks of rebirth, stating that he will rise even stronger after being broken. The old man in the crowd smiles, explaining that the immortal has forged a new essence and that his ranks have gone up. The dude next to him asks the master what this new essence of the Tao thing is. With a proud smile, the old man replies that the new essence is to be unmatched in both poetry and combat. Watching from a distance, our MC, Lu Shen, smiles, pleased with the results of his efforts. Mission accomplished. The man in the suit also smiles, clearly impressed, and admits he never expected Lu Shen to bring them so many surprises. Li Bai's new divine form recites a poem with a smile, speaking of the gallant use of the Golden City. The warrior observes his new spiritual self, and the imagery enforces the verses about white horses and silver saddles. Talk about a divine flex. In a close-up, we see one of his arms, now made of pure, bluish spiritual energy. A serious upgrade. The sword immortal looks at his transformed hand, liking the power he has gained. With a slight smile, the poet looks out at the arena. His mission here seems to be finally complete. The warrior then bows to his divine form, thanking his friend for the help in battle. From the audience, Lu Shen smiles back, seeming to understand and accept the thanks. The arena announcer raises her hand and declares the final result. Huxia has won the contest against the Sakura Nation, 3-2. Holding the microphone, she congratulates the victorious nation for pulling off an incredible win after being at a disadvantage. Then, she points to the audience and calls out the match's MVP, Lu Changsheng himself, to come get the spoils of war. It's prize time. The MC points to himself, wondering if she's really calling him. His friends push him forward, yelling that it's his time to shine. On stage, the woman presents the two reward options: take half the population or half the land of the Sakura Nation. The young man starts thinking, seeing that a larger area of land obviously brings more resources. Holding up two fingers, Lu Shen announces his decision. He chooses the second option, to take half of their territory on national destiny. The announcer gives a smile and agrees, replying that his choice is perfectly fine. In the sky, a red, serpent-like energy begins to emerge. The power transfer process is starting. With that, the energy condenses and transforms into the head of a gigantic red dragon, the manifestation of national destiny. The spirit dragon flies over a planet called the Map of Destiny, preparing to carry out the order. With one powerful bite, the creature rips a chunk out of the planet, symbolizing the transfer of land from the Sakura Nation to Huxia. In the city of Osaka, the citizens look confused, with no clue what just happened to their country. And to top it all off, an official from the Sakura Nation looks at a map in a total panic, screaming that entire cities like Osaka and Hiroshima have just vanished. The emperor is so furious at the news that he has one of those classic meltdowns. Unable to handle the shock, the emperor just passes out and hits the floor. And of course, there's always a desperate servant rushing to help him after all. Rent doesn't pay itself, right? While the emperor is out cold, the announcer declares that Huxia has made a giant leap, jumping from the 32nd spot straight to 9th in the world rankings. With that announcement, she concludes the first round of the preliminaries. Out of nowhere, a notification pops up for the folks from Rome. Their nation has requested to open an arena against the Sakura Nation. Right after, a representative from Tanju cracks a sly smile. His country also got in line to challenge the nation that's already on the ropes. The situation only gets worse for the Sakura Nation, because Greece and America also join the party to open an arena against them. The suit from Huxia is totally confused, trying to understand why four countries that were buddies now want to finish Sakura off. Looking up at the sky with a know-it-all expression, Lu Shen explains the beef with a saying: once the rabbits are gone for good, the hunting dogs become dinner. Just then, a system screen shows Lu Changsheng's stats, his level, unknown, and his compatibility with Pangu. It finally hit a glorious 10%. Looking at the floating screen, the young man realizes his compatibility with the god Peng is finally increased to 10%. The MC starts getting philosophical. He figures out that summoning different gods increases his affinity with them. With his eyes closed, he feels a transformation. The moment Huxia took half of Sakura's territory, he felt his power grow, and a golden, dragon-shaped energy began to dance around him. A giant, fiery spiritual figure appears behind him. Lu Shen looks up, facing the imposing form of his god Pangu, who doesn't look too thrilled about the visit. The young man faces the spirit. Now he's sure that summoning Pangu in the mythological arena isn't just in his head. He starts thinking about the so-called divine traits which are gained by summoning gods and bestowing divinity upon them. In the middle of a blinding light, the MC expresses a wish, hoping that everyone in the world can get a piece of this. His silhouette stands out against the bright energy, and it's clear his wish is tied to a much bigger plan for humanity. The MC points to his status screen with a serious look, explaining that now that his compatibility with the god has reached 10%, his secret technique can finally be activated. His technique is the so-called mysterious art of the 9 cycles, and it makes him immune to any kind of soul damage. Thanks to this new ability, he now has an insane defense. No curse or soul attack can even scratch him anymore. His hands glow with an all-healing energy, repairing the damage he suffered from bestowing divinity before. In the future, he'll be able to bestow divinity on more forgotten gods, and the best part is, he won't have to worry about getting wrecked in the process. And out of absolutely nowhere, the scene cuts to a super creepy place. A freaky-looking creature with reed eyes and piranha-like teeth lets out a roar. We're now in the West Capital, in a place with the super friendly name of Hellish Purgatory. A shadow appears in the midst of reed energy, while the sounds of chewing echo through the place. Snack time around here seems pretty gruesome. The energy explodes, and the disgusting noise continues. We get it, the creature's eating something. We don't need to see the main course. A figure with long dark hair is revealed from the back. His name is Yanmo, the Lord of Hellish Purgatory. In front of Yanmo, a woman in a white dress with blonde hair watches the scene. The blonde woman is introduced. Her name is Amatoriza, a figure of immense power. With a serious expression, she listens to a subordinate's report, asking if it was a single man who caused all that trouble for them in the arena. Her eyes narrow, clearly irritated. Amatoriza also wants to know if he was the one who sent her useless brother soul packing. The kneeling man confirms the information with a simple yes. The goddess smirks, finding the situation interesting. And when a god finds something interesting, it means things are about to get real messy. The subordinate panics and begs for help, yelling that their allies have turned their backs on them and the emperor has gone down. With a look of pure disgust, Amatoriza calls them a bunch of opportunistic mutts. A dark energy gathers in her hand as she says she has bigger fish to fry. The goddess tells them to forfeit the next round and wait for her. Then, she turns to the chained figure of Yanmo and, with a smile, says he finally couldn't resist, calling him her other self. The face of the red creature appears, staring at the goddess. The goddess moves closer to his face and asks if he never desired her all this time. The goddess starts to laugh and, with tears in her eyes, replies that it's all just fate. The subordinate watches everything, terrified, wondering why the sacred Amatoriza, who's supposed to be pure light, is acting so bizarrely. A powerful and dark aura surrounds the goddess, and her power manifests. She turns and walks toward a portal of darkness, the energy around her crackling with a sinister force. The man keeps watching, scared and not understanding a thing, wondering why his goddess now looks like a horror movie villain. The scene cuts back to the arena, where Aphrodite announces she's received a message about the Sakura Nation. They've chosen to forfeit the next round. She explains what happens now. The price for forfeiting is the city of Kyoto. Quite a hefty penalty. Holding up one finger, the host informs everyone that the Sakura Nation has now forfeited twice, and they only have one chance left. Aphrodite points to a map and declares that the city will be handed over to the previous victor, Huxia. In the Huxia audience, the crowd goes wild with the news. The old guy watches everything, stating that this is the price of defeat. The master explains the ugly side of the story. The marked citizens lose their divinity forever and basically become disposable resources in foreign lands. Lu Shen turns to the old man and asks if Huxia has ever had to forfeit. He sadly replies that, due to a lack of power, they forfeited 3 times, losing 3 cities. The MC gets thoughtful, imagining the fate of his friends who were left behind in foreign lands. The scene shifts to the Tanju audience. A muscular man comments that Sakura chose to hand over territory rather than fight. A little boy next to him agrees, saying they got beaten so badly they got scared. The man then turns to the young monk and asks who they should pick for the next showdown. The boy analyzes the situation, saying that Rome and Greece are at the top, and picking a small country wouldn't do them much good. Faced with the options, the young monk comes to a conclusion. The boy yells that their next target will be Huxia. The muscular man comments that, in the last battle, Huxia destroyed the Sakura Nation, and a prodigy like Chong Sheng appeared out of nowhere. We see an image of the MC, surrounded by an imposing golden aura, just to remind everyone that the kid is a beast. With the victory, Huxia's ranking shot up to 9th place in the world. The boy says that the world might think Huxia is weak, but in reality, their gods are no weaker than any other countries. Surprised by this bit of intel, the bigger monk admits he'd never heard that secret before. The man then questions him, asking why they would choose such a tough opponent right now. The bald guy explains the reason. The divinity of Huxia's gods was almost entirely spent in a battle over 10,000 years ago. That's the real reason their gods are considered weak, not the fairy tale everyone else knows. He adds that Huxia's gods can only use the strength of a general level. A king-level god over there is practically invincible. The big guy finally gets the strategy. He realizes victory is a sure thing, since their number of king-level gods is much higher. The muscular man says that all they need to do now is simply defeat Huxia. The boy continues with a creepy smile, saying the plan is to devour them and then occupy them. He reveals his intention. He wants Huxia's gods to convert to Buddhism so they can be dominated. The bigger monk looks a little disturbed. The scene cuts back to the arena, where Aphrodite announces that with the Sakura Nation's forfeit, Tanju's opponent will have to be changed. In the Huxia audience, everyone's already on edge. They know Yanju is one of the the three great civilizations and are hoping they don't get picked. Aphrodite then forms a heart with her hands in with a smile, announces that the next country to fight will be Huxia. The Huxia crowd is in total shock. One of the guys says it's terrible luck, saying they've gone from the frying pan into the fire. With her arms open wide, the host thanks everyone for coming and officially announces the end of the first round of the preliminary stage. She extends a hand to the audience with a smile and informs them that the next round will begin next Monday. After the battle, the crowd leaves, and Chong Sheng walks among them with a very thoughtful look on his face. With a serious expression, the MC remains silent, probably processing the mountain of problems that just popped up. The scene changes to the Huaxia War Preparation Center, where an older woman is talking to someone while a man takes notes. The MC recalls the scenes of his people's desperation, staying quiet as the memories flash through his mind. Sitting on a couch, the young man turns to a general and asks which 3 cities Huaxia had to hand over. A man with long hair and a beard, the general, stares at him in silence. The older man sits down and explains that Huaxia ceded the lands of Yizhu, Hong Kong Island, and Macau, and of all of them, Yizhu was the wealthiest. The general continues, saying that it's been over 50 years since Yizhu was lost after 5 divine battles. Lucian leans forward, shocked, and asks if they ever tried to take the territory back. The master explains with the strength Huaxia had, they were already struggling just to avoid being invaded again. The MC listens to it all. Suddenly, the young man stands up and says that, from this day on, Huaxia will start taking its territory back. He asks the general for the information on all the commanding gods currently in Huaxia. The older man is surprised, wondering if the kid really plans to reclaim everything using these gods. The general warns that the mission will be nearly impossible, mentioning that, at least in Huaxia, no one has ever managed to do it. The MC replies firmly that he can't stand to see his people suffering at the hands of other nations anymore. Then, the general changes his mind and says he trusts the young man. The MC observes a holographic blue screen where the bodies of various gods and divine figures appear. The young man is surprised by what he sees. He realizes they are all human gods from past lives who weren't of fighters, and that the famous King Xiang is just a great god. The general explains that Huaxia's human gods are weak, which is why the chance of awakening stronger demon gods is higher. So, with a look like he's shopping at some divine Black Friday sale, the MC points to the screen and says he needs exactly those 3 gods on display. The general, always a bit skeptical, analyzes the MC's choice. He agrees that by Qian and Zhe are monsters, but when he gets to Xiangyu, he gets all suspicious, wondering if the guy isn't a little too weak. To shut the general up, the MC simply transfers an insane amount of energy to the kid, making Xiangyu's spirit manifest with a golden or so bright it's blinding. With that, the chosen young man smiles excitedly, looking like he just won the lottery, and says his compatibility with Xiangyu has already hit 90%. At this, the academy director's jaw drops, completely shocked by the scene out of nowhere. The kid jumped from a crank chosen to an SS-rank monster. Then, the old man turns to Chong Sheng, looking super worried. Holding out his hand, he practically begs the MC not to push himself too hard, saying the young man has already done more than enough for Huaxia. With his eyes closed, a sinister shadow covers the MC's face. He seems to be concentrating. Suddenly, his body is engulfed in a dark energy. You can tell he's feeling some serious pressure. Just then, a powerful aura explodes from him as he focuses his mind, and the technique's name is Mysterious Art of the 9 Cycles. Wrapped in flames, he looks like he's holding back enough power to blow up a planet. And out of nowhere, the dark energy vanishes. The MC stands up like a Super Saiyan. With a confident little smile, he opens his eyes. Apparently, he sent any potential side effects backing. And then comes the big reveal. The MC explains that the soul damage everyone was expecting. Yeah, his technique just completely nullified it. Turning to the master, the young man lays it all out. Super chill, his god is none other than Pangu, the creator, and his technique is basically Kreth's C for soul damage. With that, the old guy is left speechless. A little status window pops up in front of the kid. Yang Wei is now an SS-rank chosen with 90% compatibility. The young man turns to Lu Shen and thanks him for giving Xiangyu's divinity a boost. The MC, humble as always, replies that it was nothing. At that moment, the MC starts reflecting on Xiangyu's history. He remembers that the general refused to cross the Jiangdong River and was a legendary figure in Huaxia's civilization. Looking at the spirit, he thinks that this god's true glory was never really seen or felt by the world. Then, an imposing image of Xiangyu's spirit is shown, and the MC hopes that, from this day forward, the world will finally witness his true greatness. Out of the blue, a girl approaches him with a grin from ear to ear. She says Lu Shan is her idol and greets him with the excitement of a cop fan. Behind the girl, a spiritual figure with 2 buns in her hair manifests. The spirit of Nezha then fully reveals herself and asks if she can feel the aura of her ancestor in the MC. So, the MC, who's also a part-time history professor, explains the divine family tree. Peng transformed into the 3 pure ones, and Tai Yizhen Ran is a direct disciple of one of them. The story explains that that this basically makes Nezha a grand disciple of the big boss Pangu, a revelation that leaves the spirit completely stunned. With tears in her eyes, the manifestation of Nezha gets all emotional. The deity starts calling out for her ancestor, overjoyed. The MC comments that Nezha's heart is pure, he was just a kid starved for a father's love, and his mischief was just a way to get attention. With his hand engulfed in flames, Lu Sheng gets ready. He was touched by the story of how the Izen-Ren took care of Nezha. He recites a poem about the god's deeds, mentioning how he shook heaven and earth and how his lotus flower restored his original form. Then, with a determined look, the MC gathers his power. He's more than ready to give Nezha's spirit an upgrade. The deity appears in her complete form, with a power that's straight up terrifying. The girl is shocked by the result. She says her compatibility with Nezha just jumped from 30 to 80%. That's the Lu Sheng effect, more powerful than any energy drink. With that, the spirit of Nezha bows before the manifestation of Pangu, showing immense respect and gratitude to her ancestor. Nezha's form becomes even more powerful, now with multiple arms. The deity thanks her ancestor. Her voice now echoes with a renewed power and confidence. Another status window appears, this time for the character Lin Xin. She is now an S-rank chosen, with 86% compatibility. The girl looks at the MC with pure admiration and says he really deserves to be her idol, as she never imagined Nezha had so much hidden potential. Watching from a distance, a young woman with white hair is happy. Her eyes are sparkling like stars. The MC then turns to her and informs her that the god of slaughter by Qi has also received his full divinity. With a serious expression, Lu Sheng announces the next step. Their mission is crystal clear: to reclaim the lost territories of Yishu, Hong Kong Island, and Macau for Huxia. With that, a man points to a holographic map and explains the situation. All the countries are focused on the mythic battle, which means the defenses in the colony should be weaker. The MC then asks the general to send 30,000 soldiers, led by Nezha, Xiangyu, and by Qi, to recapture the 3 territories, and the older man says he trusts him. But the guy in the suit looks scared of the plan. He doubts that 10,000 soldiers can break through the city's defenses, even if the forces there are weaker. He continues to bug Chong Sheng, reminding him that although the MC knows the gods, there are other important factors in war. At that point, the general cuts the annoying guy off, calling him old bai, and states that without the MC, Huxia would have been toast. With a smile, the bearded man says that young people with talent and good ideas should be given more trust. The MC smiles and makes an extra request. He wants the official media to broadcast the surprise at Act to boost the nation's morale. He turns to Director Lee, putting him in charge of the broadcast. But the old man is already worried, asking what would happen if the plan went south. The director is afraid Huxia will become a laughingstock for the whole world, so the MC assures the director that they are going to win this battle. Then, giving an order over the communicator, the MC tells them to notify Nezha and get ready for a real battle of the gods. In the command room, they watch Nezha's manifestation on a giant screen, ready for action. Arriving at the Tanju colony called Yishu, the deity floats above the battlefield with his army right behind him. In the distance, Nezha watches the enemy army approaching through the mountains, already getting ready for a fight. Suddenly, a being riding a peacock appears in the sky, all cocky, and asks how the kid dares to invade Tianju's lands. At this, the director, who's watching the scene, is in shock. He recognizes the being as Brahma, the supreme god of Tianju's heaven. With his hand on his chin, the MC explains that Brahma is one of the 3 main gods of Tianju, and also their most important one. He continues thinking out loud, saying that Brahma's status has been on the decline since the Golden Age, and wonders why he would show up in such a remote colony. Watching the screen, the MC gets worried about Nezha's silence. It seems like the child god is processing the information. Even with all of Nezha's power unlocked, Lu Sheng is afraid he can't handle Brahma in a direct fight. With a smirk, the deity from Huxia questions the enemy about this whole lands of Tianju story. Then Nezha gives a lesson in ancient geography, explaining that Huxia was divided into 9 provinces, and Yishu belongs to Yangzhou. He declares that he's come to take back his territory and challenges anyone who dares to stand in his way. Back in the command room, the director thinks the young god is being too impulsive, even if Nezha is an SS-rank god. The older man finishes his thought, saying that compared to Brahma's power, Nezha is nothing more than a slightly stronger ant. The MC, however, disagrees. He thinks a powerful god like Brahma shouldn't be wasting time with so much chatter and suspects something is wrong with him. The enemy god notices something in Nezha's hand and is surprised, saying he didn't expect the young man to be a son of Buddha. Then, Brahma tries to sweet-talk him, saying that Huxia's Buddhism has ties to Tianju and invites Nezha to join the right side of the force. With a look of pure hatred, the deity from Huxia yells that his destiny belongs to him, and not to the heavens. Using his red sash, Nezha wraps Brahma and charges into fight, yelling that he wants nothing to do with any Buddhism. The MC smiles, explaining that Nezha is bold, but also cautious. He might look arrogant, but when he attacks, it's with everything he's got. On the battlefield, Nezha's attack is blocked by a barrier of colorful feathers, created by Brahma's peacock. Shocked, the director in the command room wonders if this is the power of a supreme god, since not even an SS-rank god can break through his defense. The general, however, smiles confidently. He's seeing an opportunity in the middle of the chaos. Pointing to the screen, he explains that Brahma's power doesn't seem like it used to. With that, Nezho's spear begins to pierce the energy barrier. Brahma tries to convert the young god again, saying he should be worshipped by the masses instead of straying from the path. With an annoyed expression, Nezho tells his opponent to stop talking nonsense. Next, he unleashes a devastating fire attack, causing a gigantic explosion on the scene. In the command room, the MC watches the scene, saying that it was exactly as he had imagined. The general wonders how that could have happened, stating that this can't be Brahma's true form. The enemy god is hit square in the forehead by a beam of light. His form starts to glitch, revealing that he's just a clone. With that, Nezho mocks the enemy, saying this so-called Buddha is a total hypocrite for acting so arrogant while being just a cheap copy. The deity prepares for the final blow and is already waving goodbye to his opponent. Brahma's incarnation looks shocked and completely defenseless, unable to react to the incoming attack. After being hit, the enemy god's clone starts to fade away. With that, the director sighs and comments that, thankfully, it was just a clone and Nezho handled it. Lucian analyzes that Brahma's position in Tanju is complicated. He's under so much pressure from Vishnu and Shiva that he has to send clones to the colonies. The scene then shifts to Gangdao, where a man orders them to set the ships on fire, while the ground is covered with people who have already been taken out. Eamon yells that his people have suffered for too long and that today, they will risk it all for one last chance to reclaim their lost land. At this, his soldiers look at him with admiration, and one of them thinks that this is the legendary strength of King Xiangan, that he would happily go down just to serve him. Leading the attack, the commander inspires his men, and they all shout together that they will take back their lost land. Back at the base, the director asks if the live broadcast equipment is ready. An operator replies that there was no signal before, but now it's all good. With a serious expression, the old man orders the live broadcast to be connected to Huxia's biggest streaming platform. Elsewhere, in a cultural square in Gangdao, a teacher introduces himself, saying he's going to teach the most famous song of the Great Eagle Empire. Then, a young woman in the audience raises her hand with a serious expression and informs the teacher that the nation of Huxia has its own songs. Thank you very much. With an arrogant smirk, the teacher scoffs at the idea, saying that Huxia knows nothing about music and that it's ridiculous to think they would have their own songs. Over on the battlefield, the big guy Xiang Yu warns them not to scare the civilians, because the main target is just the enemy army. With that, he asks if the live stream is rolling yet. Meanwhile, with a front row seat to all the action, our MC flashes a sly grin, already thinking that things are about to get real interesting. The scene then cuts to Gangdao, to a packed music plaza. At the same time, on the bustling Minyao street, a shadowy figure casually walks through the crowd. Just then, back at the command base, one of the operators confirms that the broadcast signal in Gangdao is also up and running. In the plaza, the guy with the stylish haircut and dread glasses starts giving a speech to the crowd from the stage. But a young man in the crowd can't hold back and speaks up, telling the so-called professor that the first song he ever learned in school was My Motherland. Meanwhile, on Minyao Street, a red-haired girl smiles sweetly while looking in a shop window. Nearby, a man in a white turban gives a subtle signal to his bodyguards and simply orders them to take the girl. One of the bodyguards grabs the young woman's arm. The man in the turban says that being chosen by a high-caste young master from Tianju is the greatest fortune of her life. Back in the plaza, the professor gives a condescending smirk and challenges the young man to sing the song for him to hear. With his arms open, the man waits for the performance, clearly expecting the young man to completely embarrass himself in front of everyone. But without any fear, the young man opens his mouth and starts singing loudly about a great river with wide waves. The lyrics continue, talking about the wind blowing in the sweet scent of rice flowers, while a girl beside him watches with admiration. At that moment, the professor goes completely silent. Right after, other people in the crowd start singing along, fondly remembering the song of their homeland. Realizing his plan is completely backfired, the professor gets furious with the situation. Back on Minyao Street, a strong hand appears out of nowhere and grabs the bodyguard's wrist, stopping him in his tracks. With that, the shadowy figure from before finally reveals himself, ordering the guy to get his filthy hands off the girl. The man in the turban turns around, staring at the giant with no idea what's going on. Furious, he yells, asking if the giant knows who he's talking to. Without even waiting for an answer, the man in the turban takes a massive blow right to the chest that sends him flying. With that one hit, the guy in the turban is taken out instantly, while the giant warrior stands there, spear in hand, protecting the young woman. The bodyguards react quickly and surround the warrior, spreading out across the street to try and corner him. One of the bodyguards, a bald man in a suit, gets ready to fight. He then manifests a blue aura, untasks the giant if he really intends to pick a fight with the nation of Tanju. Suddenly, several of these spiritual auras appear all over the street, completely surrounding the warrior from Huxia. Furious, the warrior declares that anyone who dares to stand in his way will be eliminated. The bold man is shocked by the enemy's audacity. In the blink of an eye, the warrior charges forward and destroys all the manifestations with his spear, clearing the path like it was nothing. Meanwhile, back in the plaza, the crowd continues to sing in one voice, celebrating the peace and sun of their homeland. In the command room, the director announces that they now need to head to the mythic arena as the group stage is about to begin. With a confident smile, the MC says, friends are welcomed with wine, but if jackals come, they'll be greeted with hunting rifles. The scene shifts to the mythic arena, right to the seats of the Tianju nation, where the monks are discussing the lineup for their gods. A young monk smiles and suggests that, first of all, they should discuss the ideal setting for this divine battle. Suddenly, a man runs in a total panic, yelling that the Ganggao colony has been attacked by Huxia. He goes straight to a bearded, muscular monk, informing him that his son, Vikram Singh, has unfortunately fallen. The leader turns around, stunned, wondering if he heard the news correctly. The other monks are outraged, and one of them says that Huxia must pay dearly for this attack. To make matters worse, the messenger continues with the bad news, revealing that the city of Varanasi has also been attacked. Enraged, the lead monk shouts that Varanasi is a sacred site and swears he will make Huxia suffer greatly. The leader then turns to the young monk and says that in this divine battle, they have priority in choosing the arena's battle mode, and he has already decided. With an evil smile, the young monk announces their choice. It will be the God Demon free-for-all mode. The other monks are surprised, and one of them comments that this mode hasn't appeared in almost 2 seasons, as it tests the nation's strength and number of gods. At this, another monk stands up and explains the rules. Only the last god standing can win, which is why it rarely appears in the group stage. The young monk seems confident, believing that Huaxia's civilization has a cultural gap and that even with a genius like Chong Sheng, their foundation is too weak to win. Back at the Huaxia base, the director reports that Nezha, Xiangyu, and Baiki have already led their troops to the city of Varanasi. The MC gives a malicious grin and says that the interest for Yanju's colonization of Ganggao is just starting to be collected. Suddenly, a woman with purple hair appears on the arena stage. She introduces herself as Eris H.K. Igel, the goddess of the underworld, and announces that she will be the host and that the battle will use the god demon mode. With that, the guy in the audience gets outraged, telling the little girl to get off the stage and wondering how she dares to replace the goddess Aphrodite. The goddess of the underworld stomps her foot hard on the arena floor, and her presence intimidates everyone there. Leaning toward the man who complained, she asks if he wants a closer look. The bald guy gets a little embarrassed, but with a sleazy smile, he says she's not to bat herself. What a simp. With zero patience, the girl grabs the man's neck and lifts him into the air. With a sinister snap, the guy's neck looks like it got messed up for good. Then, he drops to the ground, already lifeless. At this, another guy in the audience stands up to protest, saying the host can't just take someone out over a joke and that he hopes the temple punishes her. Surrounded by a dark aura, Ersage Kaigel puts a finger to her lips, telling the entire arena to be quiet. Suddenly, the guy who protested is attacked by the goddess's shadows and starts screaming, completely helpless. The young man's body begins to disappear rapidly, consumed by the dark energy. In a matter of seconds, all that's left of him on the arena floor are his bones. The goddess of the underworld watches the scene with a cold stare. With a confident smile, she announces that the divine battle will follow the rules of a god and demon group battle. Then, the rules pop up on the screen. The first is that each side chooses 3 gods. The second is that a god can't back down if their chosen one goes down, and the third is that victory only happens when all the gods on one side are eliminated. In the Huaxi seats, a young man gets furious, saying that Tianju is scared of brother Chong Sheng and that's why they want a group battle. Just then, the old man explains that Tianju has a far superior lineage of gods than that. With Huaxia's current foundation, there's no way they can win this. A monk from Tianju approaches the goddess, saying that Huaxia can't accept the battle and asking if she can allow them to forfeit. Era's sage Kaigel turns to the side and asks if he hasn't said enough already. She then faces the monk and questions why she should help him make up rules, reminding him she's not like Aphrodite, who can be called upon anytime. Out of nowhere, a super cute puppy appears in the middle of the arena, barking happily and surprising everyone. The goddess of the underworld breaks into a radiant smile because the puppy's cuteness completely melted her heart of ice. She turns to the monk and asks if that puppy is his. The man confirms. In his thoughts, the monk is pleased, as everything is going exactly as the sacred son had expected. In the Tianju seats, the other monks celebrate, praising the young man for being so clever in predicting everything. With sparkling eyes, the goddess asks if she can pet the puppy, and the monk immediately allows it. She crouches down and starts playing with the puppy, wondering if she could really keep this little dog for herself. The monk smiles and says yes, as it was a gift for her from the beginning, representing Tianju's sincerity. Sincerity with ulterior motives, we all know how that goes, right? Holding the puppy in her arms, the girl is moved. With the gift in hand, she announces Tianju's proposal. If Huaxia doesn't want the group battle, they will have to give up 5 cities in exchange. The goddess then faces the representatives from Huaxia and asks if they agree to the terms. In the nation's seating area, a young man gets ticked off, saying they're trying to bribe a goddess to steal more of their land. Another guy comments that it's a tough choice because they don't stand a chance in a battle of gods, but giving up 5 cities is not an option. The general approaches the MC and advises Chang Sheng to give up the lands, as they have no chance of winning with hundreds of gods against thousands. The old man also gets gets close to the boy and says that a timely retreat allows for a stronger counterattack in the future. The MC is silent for a moment and wonders if he really has the right to make this choice. The general places a hand on his shoulder and says that he is the hope of Huxia and that everyone will support him in any decision. With a determined look, Chong Sheng turns his head to the side and declares that he chooses to fight. He then stands up and shouts to the entire arena, announcing that Huxia agrees to the God-Demon group battle mode. The goddess of the underworld and the monk watch the scene in silence, both completely surprised by Huxia's unexpected decision. In the seats of the Bangzi nation, a guy comments that it was a foolish choice to risk an entire nation for a momentary feeling. In the seats of the Sakura nation, one of the spectators yells that the people of Huxia are arrogant and warns that they will pay dearly for this attitude. In the Greece audience, a blonde man makes a comparison, saying that the people of Huxia are like birds trapped in a cage, with no idea of the vastness of the sky. The leader of the Tanju monks is completely enraged, vowing to take revenge on Huxia's chosen ones to comfort his son's spirit. The MC then addresses the host with a smile and reminds her that since one side chose the battle mode, the other side has the right to choose the reward for victory. The goddess of the underworld looks at the young man with a serious expression, seeming to consider his words. Chong Sheng announces his choice for the reward. He wants half the land and national destiny of the loser. Talk about bold. The people from Greece are shocked by the decision. The blonde man says that the genius from Huxia has made two bad choices, because only with more population can you increase national destiny. He continues his criticism, calling them idiots for choosing land that he considers useless. In his thoughts, the MC reflects on Huxia's true foundation, wondering why he would bother inheriting the population and heritage of Tianju. With her little pet, the host announces that the battle mode and the reward are all set, and then calls for the representatives from Huxia and Tianju to come up to the stage. Then, with that look of someone who loves to watch the chaos unfold, the goddess invites everyone to witness this group battle between gods and demons. The old man approaches the MC and, ticked off, immediately starts scolding him, calling him impulsive. The young man stays quiet, listening to the old guy's words, kind of like when you pretend to understand what the teacher is saying. The old man explains that the group battle chooses from gods that have already been awakened, but the problem is that the number of deities in Huxia is way lower than what Tianju has. Lucian replies that the battle mode is already set, so now they just have to find a way to win. The old man continues, explaining that Huxia's pantheon has plenty of gods, but people have forgotten them, so they don't have the divinity needed to be summoned. Just then, the scene shows the silhouettes of various ancient warriors and gods, all just waiting for a chance to be awakened. The young man then guarantees that as soon as they receive new divinity, they'll be able to unleash a power far beyond their current level. Meanwhile, back in the arena, the host announces for the representatives of each country to head to the preparation area. Suddenly, a beefy monk from Tianju stops in front of the MC, coming in hot and demanding to know who is responsible for the attack on his nation's cities. Lucian gives a little smirk and flips the question, reminding him that Tianju was the one who occupied Huaxia's territory first and now they have the nerve to ask questions. Chong Sheng points to himself and admits he was the brains behind the operation. The monk, named Vikramraj, gets furious with the answer and promises that in the upcoming group battle, he will show him the cruelty of divine combat. A voice then announces that the first match of the group stage has officially begun, a showdown between Greece and the Sakura nation. Next, the goddess of the underworld, with that super friendly way of hers, reveals the second match, Huxia versus Yeonju, while staring down the competitors as if she wants to devour everyone's soul. Vikram turns to Chong Sheng with a serious look and tells the representatives of both countries to rest in the designated area. With an evil smile, the host informs them that the battle mode for both matches will be the God-Demon group battle. In the Tianju seats, the young monk seems surprised, commenting that Greece also chose the same battle mode, and the Sakura nation just went along with it. Deep in thought, the monk concludes that as soon as Greece completely wipes out the Sakura nation, they will become Tianju's toughest opponent. He then says that after they swallow up Huxia and its lands, there will be nothing left to fear. Back in the arena, the first match of the group stage begins, and the representative from Greece, Heliodorus, appears holding a large purple crystal. Heliodorus uses the crystal to summon the sun god Apollo, and a giant golden figure appears behind him. Over in the Huxia seats, a young woman points to the arena and tells Uncle Lee that Greece has awakened the god Apollo. Uncle Lee explains that Apollo is one of the 12 Olympian gods, the son of Zeus and Leto. We're getting a mythology lesson in the middle of a brawl. How fancy. He continues, saying that although Apollo isn't a king-level god, his strength is at the top of the tier right below that. The guy is incredibly strong, and Greece really means business. And as if the sun god wasn't enough, Heliodorus summons two more deities, the sea god, Poseidon, and the fire god, Hephaestus. The elder comments that this is the most powerful combat formation below the king level. Greece is out for blood, and it's hard to imagine which of the Sakura nation's gods could take on this heavyweight trio. On the other side, the representative from the Sakura nation holds a glowing purple crystal, preparing for his own summoning. A gigantic deity with a purple aura is summoned into the arena, and her presence is imposing and very mysterious. And the summoned goddess is Amatorza, the sun deity from the Sakura nation's pantheon. Heliodorus is confused, wondering why her deity seems larger than in the last battle. To him, she seems much stronger than just one level up. The elder notices a new aura on Amator's body and explains that she and Apollo have similar attributes, since they are both incarnations of the sun in their respective pantheons. With that, the man in the suit concludes that, judging by past battles, Amator's strength is still a bit weaker than Apollo's. The two sun deities face off in the arena, one with a golden aura and the other with purple energy, in a contest of who shines brightest. A monk from Tianju observes the situation and comments that even if Amatorza has increased her divinity, the Sakura nation has no other gods to fight against Poseidon and Hephaestus. With a confident smile, the young monk says that now they will see which gods the Sakura nation will use to face the other two powerful gods from Greece. Then, the host asks the next chosen one from the Sakura nation to come forward and continue the selection of gods for the battle. Suddenly, a young man with dark spiky hair appears, stating with a smile that the selection is already over. The host jaw drops at the guy's declaration, not understanding this whole mess. Even our MC, Chong Sheng, is shocked by what just happened, wondering what kind of crazy stunt this is. In the Tianju seats, the monks stand up. Annoyed, one of them shouts, calling the young man an audacious maniac. Over in the Huxia seats, the elder is shocked, wondering if Amatorza fighting 3-on-1 isn't basically asking to get wiped out. The emperor of the Great Eagle Empire questions if they've given up for good, since Greece didn't even send king-level gods and the Sakura nation didn't have the guts to try. Before the host, the young representative of the Sakura nation remains silent, with a firm expression as shadows surround him. The host asks the young man to confirm one more time if he is really going to give up selecting other gods for the fight. With a loud and decisive shout, the young man confirms his choice without hesitation, to the entire nation's surprise. The representative then positions himself before the gigantic and powerful image of Amatorza, ready for the upcoming battle. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a city in the midst of chaos, where a muscular man with his hair tied back observes the situation with a serious look. Amidst red energy, the warrior declares that the last colony, Macau, has finally been reclaimed. His image appears on a giant screen for everyone to see, announcing the huge victory to the entire nation. In Huaxia's command room, a man and a young man celebrate the news with a smile, and the younger guy comments that this is great. Just then, in the middle of some blazing energy, a gigantic and imposing figure starts to form behind our MC. Seen from above, the young man looks tiny before the overwhelming power of an orange warrior and a blue dragon. With his eyes closed and completely focused, he activates a powerful technique known as the mysterious art of the 9 cycles. A massive amount of flames explodes around him as the young man strikes a pose with a confidence that borders on pure arrogance. He looks up with a slight smile, and the image of the spiritual warrior becomes increasingly sharp and powerful. From a distance, the elder notices that Chang Shang's aura is rising non-stop. The girl next to him is stunned to see he's already reached crank. His power doesn't stop climbing, and in the blink of an eye, his energy rapidly advances to rank. Even with a strained expression, the guy's aura continues to grow and soon reaches the powerful A rank. Finally, he looks at his own hand with a victorious smile as his power hits its peak, reaching the incredible SSS rank. Our MC went from intern to CEO in just 5 seconds. I'm so jealous. The white-haired girl is completely shocked, covering her mouth, unable to believe the speed of this upgrade. Now the MC stands before the enormous orange energy deity, and his presence is simply overwhelming. The elder is also in a state of shock, wondering what kind of absurd promotion speed this is. In the Sakura Nation seats, a representative looks annoyed, complaining that another high-level powerhouse has emerged in Huxia. Meanwhile, a monk from Tianju looks thoughtful, sensing the aura of a god's chosen one that feels both strange and familiar. The United States delegation also looks concerned, commenting that Huxia has a new SSS-RANK chosen and wondering about someone else's advancement. The energy released by Chong Sheng is so intense that the images of a blue dragon and an orange phoenix manifest in the air. Within Huaxia's pantheon, the newly awakened deity floats in the Great Hall, surrounded by other guardian spirits. A young man watching it all is amazed, telling himself that what he's seeing is a true miracle. The deity made of orange energy has a fierce and determined gaze, and its power seems limitless. The MC then reflects on his new strength, feeling that SSS rank chosen are the limit for mortals and that he's just one step away from touching the divine realm. The MC faces the orange energy manifestation, remaining silent before so much power. With a serious look, he reflects that Pangu's awakening level is closely linked to the national destiny. Then, someone reaches out a hand and gives the command to open the system panel. Chong Sheng analyzes his stats on a holographic screen and notices that his compatibility with the deity has increased like crazy. Just then, the scene shifts to the mythic arena, where the god Apollo comments on the dark and rotten, or he's feeling. Right after, Amatorza appears next to a shadowy figure, who is revealed to be the entity known as Yama. With an evil smile and glowing red eyes, Yama approaches and announces that his opponent will be her. The Greek god Apollo stares her down with a serious expression, preparing for the coming confrontation. The battle begins with a major exchange of blows as the deities clash in the arena. A hand holds an immense sword, which glows with a powerful, purple, flaming energy. Amaterasu wields her colossal weapon and prepares to fight with all her strength. On the other side, Poseidon and Hephaestus watch their opponents. The god of the seas invokes his power, declaring that the will of Poseidon shall descend so that waves and storms will sweep the world. The elder from Huxia comments on the deity, saying that the strength of Greece's gods is superior to that of other nations. In the Sakura nation's seats, the master asks the other if Poseidon's divinity is stronger than Lord Umibozu's. The second man replies that they are both good, but Umibozu's divinity is a little weaker. Back in the arena, Amaterasu positions herself before a gigantic wave, ready to face the attack head-on. She then raises her pink energy sword, preparing to unleash a devastating counterattack. With a single strike, the goddess slices the wave in half, releasing an explosion of energy throughout the arena. Poseidon gets totally enraged by the deity's audacity, yelling that he'll make her pay the price for offending him with a pain that will never end. With a confident smile, the goddess Amaterasu mocks her opponent and mentions the so-called Abyssal Sea. She takes a stance and questions how the so-called Abyssal Sea could possibly stop a king-level god. The god of the seas points at her, totally irritated, saying he remembers her and that 100 years ago she was just a weak, fake deity. With a sly grin, he wonders how she managed to become a king-level goddess and proposes an alliance, if she shares the secret, of course. The goddess rejects the offer without even looking at him, stating that this so-called decline is just an excuse for the weak. With a swift movement of her flaming sword, she throws both Greek gods away with a single blow. Hephaestus yells for his companion to be careful and throws himself in front to try and block the energy blade. The goddess stands out as she dominates both opponents with absurd ease. Meanwhile, in another corner of the arena, this so-called Yama floats towards Apollo. The sun god stares at her, completely stunned, wondering what kind of dark creature just popped up out of nowhere. Apollo then faces the black-winged figure and lets her have it, saying that as the one most accustomed to the light, he knows how to recognize what's born in darkness, and he yells her name Yama. With a confident smile and her reed eyes glowing, the shadowy entity warns him to remember that name well, because it's going to be the last thing he ever hears. And all of a sudden, the sun god gasps and doubles over, hit by a pain that feels like it's about to rip him in two. Just then, Yama charges at her opponent and lands a direct hit with a devastating blast of purple energy. Seen from a distance, the two Greek gods are now on the arena floor, completely flattened by the entity. Looks like they got real friendly with the floor. The sun god just lies there, motionless, shocked by the beatdown he just took. Floating in the air with her dark wings, the entity taunts him, saying he couldn't even handle her incarnation. Over in the Sakura Nation's seats, the representative smirks, commenting that it was pretty unexpected to see Amaterasu handle Apollo. Meanwhile, in the Huxia delegation, the old man looks worried, saying that Apollo's power is the strongest below king level and wonders what the heck happened to Amaterasu. Meanwhile, the monk from Tanju watches everything. Back in the arena, the goddess approaches the two fallen opponents and asks if they're going to surrender to her. Then Hephaestus gets up, all fired up, yelling that he's no pushover like Poseidon. The forge god unleashes his full power. A wave of fire energy surges across the arena, heading straight for the goddess at an insane speed. In the United States seats, a spectator gets all hyped up by the display of power while the guy next to her is completely jaw-dropped. The goddess faces the attack with a cold expression, commenting that since he won't accept her goodwill, things are going to be different. So, she'll have to handle the situation another way, as she calmly walks through the purple energy surrounding her. Hephaestus' face transforms into pure fire energy, and he prepares for the final showdown. Amaterasu floats above her opponent's fire form. The two divine powers are about to clash, and I've already got my popcorn ready. With a determined look, the goddess invokes a new technique, commanding the abyss to descend upon the arena. The goddess points her weapon, and a vortex of purple energy rushes towards Hephaestus' small fire form. As he's being swallowed by the darkness, the fire god wonders how she can wield the power of the underworld. With a subtle little smile, Amaterasu begins to explain why, as the shadowy entity appears smiling behind her. She reveals that the two of them have completely merged, becoming a single being with combined powers. The fire god is in shock at the revelation, wondering how deities of opposing elements could have possibly united. Without even giving him time to think, a powerful blast of purple energy shoots down from the sky, slamming right into Hephaestus. The two entities look down with complete indifference, and one of them simply comments that he's too noisy. In the Greek seats, a spectator is fuming, unable to believe that the weak Sakura Nation could pull off such a feat. Hephaestus' fire form slowly dissipates, while Apollo is already down on the rocks below, completely defeated. In a grand hall, the couple runs desperately, screaming for their son who was just taken out in the arena. The Huxia elder reflects on the battle, saying that Greece was all set to steamroll the Sakura Nation, but they got careless. The white-haired girl beside him finishes his thought, stating that they were simply arrogant. A purple-haired woman steps into the arena, congratulating Amaterasu for defeating 3 opponents all at once. With a smile on her face, she announces a short break before the next battle, which will be between Huxia and Tanju. The scene cuts to our MC heading towards his showdown, Suddenly, he stops when he runs into the goddess Amaterasu. She calls him an interesting young man and tells him to wait for her alive. Well, looks like she's already got her eye on him. The deity then turns and walks away, leaving the MC behind, who just watches her in silence, probably thinking, what a weirdo. The perspective shifts to a hand touching a large purple crystal, which emits a very bright blue light. Several holographic screens float in the air, showing images of various creatures and mystical entities. Analyzing the options, the young man observes the different deities available for the next battle that's coming up. The MC analyzes one of the options, the winged creature Quan Ki. He reflects that, being one of the 4 ancient demons, the beast is powerful, but not at all easy to control. Next, he sees Feinayu, a calamity god who repels evil spirits. However, he concludes that this entity has no advantage against the Buddhas of Tianju, and that 3 others are more suitable. The first viable option is the dragon Aolai, whose horns raise the sun and moon, whose scales shake the universe, and whose claws grasp the stars. This thing's resume is pretty impressive. Then comes Han Dan, a little girl with the body of a pig and leopard scales. Her hoofs tread on the chaos of creation, and her fangs tear at the root of the heavens. Don't be fooled by her appearance, this one is dangerous. Finally, the last choice is the True Order Lang Sheng, accompanied by his celestial hound. His golden eyes pierce the clouds, and his blade shines as cold as snow. In the Huxia seats, the audience is stunned by the selection. One of them wonders why the MC would choose a dog god. Other spectators look worried, thinking that only the dragon god has any real strength. Even so, they doubt that a young dragon can fight against the powerful gods of Tianju. The 3 chosen deities appear in front of the MC, while Aolai respectfully greets the Lord. The little girl complains that her stomach is rumbling with hunger. In the audience, a man starts panicking at the scene. He's totally losing it, wondering why there's a little girl there. Lord Erlang then turns to the MC and asks if he's the one who awakened them. Our guy confirms, saying, yep, that was him. Lord Erlang says they share the same lineage, so there's no need for all the formalities. With a serious look, the deity states that the Great Master never truly left them. The Great Dragon Aolai watches the conversation between the Lord and the MC. The young man is confused by the term and wonders if Pangu is really Erlang Shun's Great Master. With a hand on his chin, our guy starts thinking, Erlang's master is the Jade Emperor, and the Emperor's master is none other than Pangu. The deity then warns that the boy's current power isn't enough to awaken the Great Master, but it's time for him to learn a few secrets. A close-up on Erlang's face shows his beauty. He points a finger at the MC's forehead, and a pink beam of light shoots right into his mind, kinda like a divine information download via Wi-Fi. Our guy is completely shocked by the sudden action, having no idea what's going on. The scene shifts to a desolate place in space with a giant planet in the background and several bodies scattered across the rocks. The MC's astropherm appears in the middle of the scene, and he realizes Erlang projected a memory into his head. Looking at the fallen warriors around him, the boy wonders what this place is. He walks across the rocky terrain, wondering if this is the graveyard of the gods. His bluish projection stares at the horizon, trying to figure out what's up with this vision. Up ahead, he spots 3 figures standing, apparently facing off at the top of a hill. A muscular man with a white beard, identified as Zeus, asks if the gods of Huxia still want to keep this fight going. Beside him, Odin adds that they are foolish, as their divinity has already run out and they're nothing but spent arrows. With a nervous look, one of the gods wonders why they still insist on chasing them. A third figure, named Jehovah, appears, saying that God loves mankind. Zeus confronts him, calling it a load of nonsense. He asks why the other didn't come with them if he really cares and tells him to stop with the pretty words. Jehovah defends himself, saying he also needs to protect his own people. With his arms crossed, Zeus accuses him, saying he just doesn't have the guts to act. However, the Greek god admits that he can't help but envy their courage. Hey, at least he admits it, right? The scene shifts to the Jade Emperor in Nuwa. He comments that he can feel the great Lord Pangu awakening. The Emperor reflects that Pangu is one of a kind and that fully awakening him is very difficult, even by combining the wills of all the gods. But he states that it doesn't matter, because even if Pangu hasn't fully awakened, they are strong enough. The Emperor rises into the air surrounded by energy, declaring that he can land a heavy blow on these visitors from another world. With her back turned, the goddess Nuwa observes a large planet, saying she can't bear to leave these people who are like her children. She laments that she doesn't know if she'll ever be able to return if she leaves. The Jade Emperor turns to his companions and asks if everyone is tired. The war god riding his panda replies no. He'll only get tired when he's finished them all, while an elder at his side agrees. Walking into battle, they talk about getting back soon for some wine and meat, and how they wish they could drink the water of the Yellow River again. The MC's projection is shocked by the revelation, realizing who they are. The vision reveals Nuwa, the creator of humans, the war god Kai, the Jade Emperor, the human emperor, FUXI in the sky piercing axe. Just the heavy hitters. Back in the present, the MC's mind is a total mess after receiving so much information at once. The young man stays silent for a moment, processing the memory he just saw. Looking at the ground, he asks if this could be the place where the gods met their end. With a grim look, Erlang confirms his suspicion, saying yes, all of them are gone. He's shocked, wondering if the goddess knew wand all the others were really gone. Beside him, the dragon Aeoli also confirms the information with a simple "that's right." With his back to the deities, the MC asks if Earth lost the Great War, but to everyone's surprise, Erlang shoots that down immediately. He reveals that they won, and the civilization from the other world signed a 10,000-year truce treaty. Completely floored by this information, the young man looks up at the sky with wide eyes. The memory continues, showing destroyed spaceships and high-tech suits floating in space. Pieces of giant robots are also scattered across the destructive scene. Dark figures with glowing blue eyes are seen. These were the enemies they faced. A gigantic enemy ship is crashed on a desolate planet, showing the scale of the conflict. On the ground, the fallen forms of the Huxia gods are scattered everywhere, all of them struck down in battle, proving that victory came at a great cost. Amidst a scene where the sky and the earth were nothing but dust, a giant flaming hand appears. With his colossal axe in hand, the almighty Pangu rises, ready to put an end to the injustice that was going down. Even covered in dust, there he was, raising his flaming hand in his massive axe, signaling that the bet down against what was wrong was about to truly begin. Suddenly, the vision vanishes, and the MC is left standing there, jaw dropped, staring at Pangu's power, completely awestruck by what he just saw. Then, back in the real world, the look on the MC's face is living proof of how shocked he was. In that moment, it clicks, and he finally gets the main reason why the Huxia civilization met its end. So, with his hands on his head, the MC sends out a big thank you to the ancestors who protected Huxia and, on top of that, saved the human race. He reflects that it's only because those folks from the past threw themselves into the fight that his generation can live peacefully today. With that, Erlang comments that everyone there are, in fact, survivors of that ancient battle, and because of that, they were lucky to see it. But the Lord quickly gets real. What truly made the gods of Huxia disappear was some internal beef between Buddhism and Taoism. The scene focuses on Erlang's back as he stares into the vastness of the universe, lost in thought about the blunders of the past. Then, the god cuts the conversation short, saying there's no point in just dwelling on old gossip. Then he turns and faces the MC directly, asking the million-dollar question, why did he decide to wake them up? The MC stays silent for a second, probably looking for the right answer so he doesn't get taken out right off the bat. He then explains that they're in the mythic arena, in a battle that will decide the nation's future, and that Huxia is about to throw down with the Tanju nation. Staring intently at the god, the MC says he summoned the crew specifically to lay a bet down on the Tianju folks. He adds that the goal is to supercharge Huxia's national destiny and make it crazy strong. Erlang gets the situation right away, speaks of the enemies with major contempt, and immediately offers to handle the mess. This guy likes a fight more than I like a day off, huh? The deity then drops some new info. The way to get incense, which is the source of their power, has changed to a completely different format. Meanwhile, on the other side of the arena, a monk appears holding a purple crystal, which represents their seats in the mythic arena. Suddenly, several cards pop up in the air, each one bearing the image of one of the gods from the Tanju nation. The monk starts moving toward the cards, making it clear that the enemy team is already gearing up for the final showdown. On one of the cards, the figure of Lord Shiva, the god of destruction, appears. In the audience, two guys from Tanju are shocked, wondering how their sacred son managed to awaken Lord Shiva. On his knees, the monk bows gratefully, saying that now he can pass on happily after seeing the true face of his god. On the Huxia side, the old man and the young guy are tense. The younger one recognizes Shiva as one of the three main gods of Tanju. Gritting his teeth in anger, he adds that Shiva's strength is on a supreme level, even when compared to other god kings. The crowd totally panics at the news. A woman even wonders how the MC, Chong Sheng, is going to deal with a problem this big. Back in the arena, the MC faces his three opponents, Hanuman, the golden winged Peng, and to complete the nightmare package, the projection of Shiva in the background. With his hands together in a sign of respect, the monk formally invites the god of destruction and annihilation to the fight. Lord Shiva then replies that since the monk is a disciple of that person, whoever that is, there's no need for so many formalities. Out of nowhere, a little dog appears in the arena to break the ice. The story explains that the three main gods of Tanju are known as the Trimurti, the gods of destruction and creation. A purple-haired woman takes the microphone and announces that the first match of the Mythic Arena's group battle will officially begin. The announcer reveals that this time, the battle mode is a demon god group brawl. Lord Shiva then turns to his two partners and tells them to go on ahead, saying he'll just show up later for the grand finale. And just like that, Hanuman and the golden winged Peng take off, flying full speed at their opponents. On the other side of the fight, Erlang is already organizing the defense. He tells Aeoli and Handan to take care of the two henchmen, while he'll face Lord Shiva himself. Just then, Hanuman leaps up high, already preparing a fierce and powerful attack with his staff aimed at Aeoli. Aeoli faces his enemy and comments that he looks almost the same as his older brother, but that it doesn't change anything, because he's going to handle this himself. But, out of nowhere, Hanuman's staff is blocked by another warrior, who arrives just in time, introducing himself as his real opponent. As the fight heats up, a hand reaches out to grab a golden light, already getting ready for the next round of the bet down. With a precise and powerful strike, Aeoli uses his sword to send Hanuman flying, launching the poor guy through the air. Hanuman's body slams hard into the ground. Hanuman glares at his opponent, while Aeolai summons to blue energy dragons to stop the advance of his staff. Hanuman is surprised by the guy's strength and wonders how a little dragon like that can have so much power. With his head lowered, Aeolai explains that in the journey to the west, his older brothers taught him all of their techniques. The dragon then taunts him, asking how a fake god who only knows how to copy his older brother thinks he can compete with him. The god is totally confused by the taunt and asks what he means by older brother, if this person looks like him. Meanwhile, Hundun looks up at the sky and sees a golden-winged Peng flying. With a hungry grin, he starts repeating that he wants to eat meat. The bizarre child licks his lips with a look of pure delight, staring at the birdman in the sky as if he were the main course for dinner. But to see this kid actually eat, you'll all have to comment a bunch asking for more.